What is up, fam? It is Tuesday night, which means Birds of a Feather coming live to you from the Real Talk Studios on A2DRadio.com. We're on Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're on the site. Chrome, Chucks, Ryan Brodo over on the ones and twos, and we are brought to you by Scanzano Sports. That is going to be our poll question. Our Scanzano Sports poll question this week. Was it the right move to re-sign Brandon Graham? Yes or no? Also brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, GibsonMayer.com, and Specialized Physical Therapy. Find them on the web, SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. There's a physical location, guys. Find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton, New Jersey. Check them out. All right, we're back, Chucks. How was your week, buddy?
It was good. How are yours?
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. It's been a very eventful week in Philadelphia
Since
sports,
our last show, yeah.
to say the least. We have some Eagles stuff, some housekeeping to discuss today, as well as, obviously, and we'll get into it in the No Huddle, we're going to talk a little Bryce Harper, guys. So don't worry. We'll get there. That's going to be the second half of the show. Lots of things to talk about. Sixers are on right now. I believe they are up at halftime. Am I correct?
Yes.
Sixers have a lead at halftime. I didn't see what the score was, though, but we'll be on that as well. Good to have basketball back after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Flyers are playing phenomenally right now. What are they, 5 points out, I believe, of a playoff spot? Unbelievable the run that they're on right now. But yeah,
and it's funny they're both doing it without Carter Hart and Joel Embiid. So
it's really, really crazy. But yeah, fam, let's have a conversation. As always, let's talk about it. You drive the show. We're looking forward to talking to you. So clearly we had the Brandon Graham re-signing. We also had today Lane Johnson restructuring his deal to open up some cap space.
Got a bunch of stuff.
There's been the Michael Bennett rumors that are out there that he's being dangled as trade bait to see what you could get for him. Timmy Jernigan is going to be released, or I guess he already has been released. Nick Foles. We're getting some clarity on Nick Foles' next destination. What else am I missing?
Seumalo got a new contract.
Got a new contract. I feel like there's still something else I'm missing. There's a whole lot going on.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
But anyway,
Howie's been busy.
Howie has been
Kelce,
that's
yes,
the one.
Yes.
Yep. Kelce got a new deal. Got an extension on his deal that takes through, I believe, 2022. Yeah, man, lots of stuff to talk about. Brandon Graham, let's get at it first. That was the big question mark. I think in a lot of ways we thought less of a question mark going the other way. We really didn't expect that they would find a way to bring Brandon Graham back.
I didn't think anyone did.
I like the number that he's back at. I feel like it's team friendly, but also respecting his contributions to the team and his leadership to the team. Huge move. Definitely would have been a huge void on this defensive line without having him. I'm a fan of it. I think it was a big deal. I think we needed to bring him back. If there was anybody that I would have liked to have seen them find a way to bring back, it was Brandon Graham. So I'm happy that he's going to be back. And from some of the other things that we touched on and we're going to dig into too, I think the grand scheme of things now going into the draft may have shifted a little bit in terms of where we're going to go first round. I know we talked a lot about offensive line. I particularly was really big on the offensive line being probably the first priority. That may have changed. But getting back to Brandon Graham, huge bringing him back, and I'm really excited for that.
I am too. I definitely am, because I think that whereas I was questioning the depth along the edge, I think that him being back now kind of gives us assurance, and I think that it puts what not enough people are talking about, because everyone's talking about the money and everything and whether he's still the same player, and I'm sure you guys have too, but I've debated it with a bunch of people already since the signing. But I think another aspect that you have to look at it at is the fact that with him here, again, you don't have to put as much pressure on the younger guys like Barnett and Sweat. Without Graham here, you don't know what we would have had to put on them. They would have had to play important reps, important snaps, a lot of playing time for them. Barnett, he started, like we always talked about, he started out well in 2018 before he got hurt. So he was playing well, so you gotta kind of project that, he will still continue to develop and play well. But we're not sure 100% how he's going to be coming back from the ACL. And then with Sweat, we have no clue what he is. Absolutely none. There's nothing from his playing time in 2018 that you can legitimately take from and judge him off of. Like, he barely played, and when he did play, he was only in situationally, and there's really nothing to go off of, so you don't know what he is. So the fact that we don't have to rely on those young guys to play important snaps in a forceful manner, like we can just let it go along as they develop. That's huge, because now it's you have a Graham you can rely on and be there in meaningful snaps. And hey, if Sweat and Barnett develop the way that we all hope and pray they do, that's just a bonus, because now you got even more people contributing and making big plays along the rotation. And I think also just having a locker room guy, having his leadership again and back in that locker room.
Yeah.
He's absolutely one of the leaders.
Absolutely.
He's one of the guys that the team leans on. He's a captain.
Defensive captain.
So I think having him back was great. I know people were upset about the money, but if you look at it, he right now, even before the big contracts of DeMarcus Lawrence and everyone, he's outside the top 15 on edge rushers.
Yep.
So that's a deal. And then people are complaining, he barely played, he barely had any sacks last season. Well, Brandon Graham's never been a huge sack guy. Mm-hmm. His value is as a persistent and consistent penetrator on the edge, mm-hmm. who always brings pressure on the edge, and then as a run defender, he's an elite run defender. Mm-hmm. So you can't just look at his sacks and say, oh, he sucks, he's not the same. No, and plus factor in that he was hurt or recovering from injury for the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. He wasn't himself until the second half of the season, and then later in the year, that's when we started to see the old Brendan Graham come back. So mm-hmm. I think it's great signing. 3 years, it's not that bad, and I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if in that final year there wasn't some kind of out for the team where mm-hmm. before he enters his final year, if the team feels like he's not the same player anymore, they want to let him go, it's cost-friendly to let him go. So
yeah, and it's not even just that. I mean, obviously you're right. He's great with the pass rush and edge defender and all that, but it's the fact that he's a playmaker. He makes big plays at pivotal moments in the game, which is so valuable. I mean, there's a lot of guys who can go through the reps and they can do this and that, but aren't real big playmakers.
Yeah.
This guy has done it on the grandest stage that's possible, and he's one of those guys. I talk about Barnett a lot. There's a couple guys on this team that when it comes down to crunch time seem to find something else inside of them to create a play. Chris Long is one of those guys.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that's an invaluable asset. You talk about the leadership, you talk about how great he is with stopping the run game, and you talk about being able to make plays at pivotal points in the game. There's a lot of value to that, and you're right. I mean, you said it. He's outside of the top 15 as far as edge rushers, which to me makes it more of a team-friendly kind of deal, because I believe that he could have gotten more money elsewhere should he have been available.
I think so too.
So I think it's a really good move retaining him and keeping that leadership core in place, particularly going into next season. When you're really a lot of the focus, I think they want to keep the leadership in place with this team because we're going to have a lot of not new faces because they played a lot in the second half. We're going to have a lot of young guys who still have stuff to prove in the secondary. So you want to find places on the field where you know what you're going to get, that defensive leadership to where there's a consistency there.
Yeah.
Just in case there is other question marks on other spots on the field. And not even just that, there's going to be a big, heavy focus on Carson Wentz this year and his progress. And I feel like by taking some of the pressure off, by bringing back a guy who is a defensive leader and hopefully can stabilize the defense, will take some of that pressure off of Carson on the offensive side of the football.
Absolutely.
So I like the deal. I think it's a really good pick, a really good retaining him, and they move forward now. So where do we go from here? Timmy Jernigan's gone. I know we had talked about Vinny Curry being a guy to possibly come in, but he's an edge rusher. Timmy Jernigan is on the interior of the defensive line. Where do they go to fill that need? Is that going to be something that's addressed in the first round of the draft? Is that something we're going to look second or third round? Where do you see that hole being plugged up?
I believe that it's going to be early in the draft. I mean, you know me, I've said I don't like placing a specific position in a specific round because it all depends who falls. But I would be very surprised if on day 1 or day 2 they don't go for a defensive tackle. That's where they end up going. I also think that they have to target someone in free agency because even if you draft a guy, that's only a second guy. That's only the guy playing opposite of Cox. You need another guy to rotate in that second unit.
Well, particularly, too, with the question marks of is Michael Bennett coming back, that's another potentially big loss on the defense that you're going to have to find a way to fill
Which
those
is a big
holes.
topic, which is, I don't know if you want to get into it now, but there are those rumors that Michael Bennett was being shopped around by the Eagles in Indy. Now, I don't know if here's what you have to differentiate. Is he being actively shopped, like they're looking to trade him, or are they just having conversations and are they just open to trade talks? There's a difference between the two. I mean, if you're just gauging trade interest, I guess that's understandable. You want to see what you can get for him. If there's anything that's great, that's an offer too good to be true, you take it. But if you're actively trying to shop him and get at least a reasonable deal, that's a different story. If he's not in your plans for next year, that's something I think me and you will agree on. That I find that highly questionable. I don't know if that's the best route to go.
It is, but and we're going to dive deep into it in No Huddle, and I want Ryan at that point to get his opinion in on this. But it's so crazy because it's still so early, and there's going to be a lot of other moves that are going to be made. And to me, it's going to be predicated on, is there one big fish that we're trying to clear up space for? Because that makes a whole lot of sense to me for that. And when you put Michael Bennett in that category of guys who beyond this year are not likely to be on this football team, do you figure it out for a year to go and get that big fish this year? I say yes. But outside of that, I don't know that I really can understand the logic of doing it unless you're blown away by a deal as well. I think Michael Bennett, outside of Fletcher Cox, was hands down your best defensive player last year.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, he may have been neck and neck with Cox for a lot of the season.
He was more consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a week where he didn't make a play.
No, I think Fletcher got off to a slow start, but once he kicked it into high gear, he did.
He was, yeah.
But Michael Bennett from go was locked in and our most reliable defensive lineman the entire season, hands down, of anybody.
And his cap is only 7.2. That's the only thing. If you're talking about a guy who's up in like 10 million or more, that's a different story. It's like, okay, you want to clear the cap space, but he's only 7.2 for an edge rusher that productive. That's a steal. I don't understand it. And I think when we talked about it, you originally had said to me like it might be at the expense of Bennett, and I was like, wow. I was surprised. I was like, that shocks me because he's only 7.2 million. Why would they do that? It doesn't make sense. And then when you showed me the actual report, I think a few days ago, I'm like, that's so surprising. I don't understand the logic behind that. I mean, I've read articles and media people have been talking about like the reasoning that they have behind it and everything, and I can understand where they're coming from, but I still don't agree. I don't think that's a move you make.
I think again, I'm gonna go more towards the first thing I said, though. I think there's a big fish that they have their eye on, not with the initials AB, by the way, that I think that they're going to nickel and dime and find every penny and scrape every barrel in order to do so. What's up, Godfather? They're gonna find every stone to turn to open up any kind of cap space that they possibly can. And in that sense, if that's where the vision is, I'm okay with it. And I think there's going to be more moves than just that move. And I would be totally on board for that because I think when you look outside beyond just this season, that's the move. And I told you, I'm always a fan of you want to go all in or you want to try to get it done this year. But if there's a move that you can make that can position you this year and beyond, I make that move in a heartbeat. That's the way I am. I'm not a guy who's okay with winning 1 year or winning 2 years and then not seeing anything for 15 to 20 years. I like when my teams are consistently there and have a shot every year. Now, the shift may change. This team may not be as defensively focused if they make that move. It may predicate more on putting more points on the board and finding somebody else who maybe can't carry the load that a Michael Bennett does, but could be sufficient enough to fill that hole. And then you'll have to rely more on guys like Fletcher Cox. And Brandon Graham's going to have to step up this season. And Barnett's going to have to come back, and then he's going to have to make that next step forward. You know? So I don't see it now until I see where the end game ends up being.
Yeah,
If
that's reasonable.
That's the only way that I am 100% on board with it then.
That's reasonable.
Because to me, if that's the case, outside of Carson Wentz, outside of Fletcher Cox, there's nobody on this football team, including a Zach Ertz, that's untouchable. Now, I wouldn't sacrifice Zach Ertz to open up cap space, obviously. But I'm just saying in general, if there's a move that can make this team better and sustain a longer period, I'm game for it if it doesn't involve a Fletcher Cox or it doesn't involve a Carson Wentz.
I don't disagree.
So, and clearly we had other moves. We talked about it. We haven't gotten the official numbers yet, but Lane Johnson's deal was restructured.
Yes.
Now, I have the numbers on what his contract is. So the report is that his base salary has been completely converted to a signing bonus. I'm not real clear on all the ins and outs of the finances of the NFL because it's very complicated, very intricate. We were talking before we went on the air. It's what makes what Howie does so amazing, and it's what makes him and Joe Douglas such a great tandem because I think we were talking about Howie's a numbers guy. I mean, he knows football, but he's a numbers guy. Joe is the football guy. It's Howie. Howie says, this is what we're working at. Joe, what can we do?
Yeah.
Or Joe says, this is what we need to do. Can you make it happen? And Howie crunches the numbers and figures out a way to get it done. They work so well together. But we're looking at Lane's contract. So this year, his cap hit is the highest on the team at 15.276 and change. And his base salary was at 10.85. Now, I don't know if a portion of that then is taken off of the cap or if the entire base salary number comes off of the cap because it's a signing bonus, and it is deferred as well. So it does have future implications in regards to that. But that's a huge move. You're talking about the guy who was your biggest cap hit on the team, and they found a way to clear up space. Now, if anybody gets the numbers while we're on the air, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah, definitely.
We've been trying to figure it out a little bit. There's been no specifics aside from, like I said, that his entire base salary is going to be a signing bonus. I don't know what that opens up. But if that's a big number. That's a big chunk of what we needed.
That's a huge
Having Nick Foles come off the board, having that happen there, having Rodney McLeod basically sign an entire new contract for all intents and purposes. That's not even a restructure. That was just basically terminate the contract and redo his contract.
And it was like half of what he was making.
I mean,
cut it down,
that alone right there, depending on what Lane's is, you're talking about anywhere between, you're looking at like close to $20 million in cap shift. So I don't know what their cap situation is going to be now, but I could say that this is going to definitely take them out of that being in the worst cap situation.
Yeah.
Over on the YouTube, on the Facebook with the fam, Ryan Brodo says, #Howie season. Damn right it is. Rob Brinkman, Giants take the cake in stupidity. Are you surprised?
Am I surprised?
That they
Not
didn't
anymore.
Franchise tag?
Because I got the report. The whole Collins thing happened weeks ago. So right now I'm not surprised. When it happened that he cleaned out his locker a few weeks ago, I was shocked. Like, what in the world are they doing?
But that's what I'm saying. Are you surprised that there's that much stupidity? I mean, he hit the number on
David
the
Gettleman. You got to talk about David Gettleman was talking about
how do you not bring this
freaking Jonathan Stewart being still a good running back.
How do you not bring this guy back?
I don't know, dude. I do not know.
At the average of the top 3
11
the top
something.
3 play, like that's not a bad number for his
Not
production.
at all. You're talking about
My
one of the
Lord.
top safeties. He's probably a top 3 safety in the league.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't
up there.
know either.
I'm glad that it's not my problem.
I'm glad
but
I'm not a Giants fan.
No, I agree with Rob 100%.
Yeah.
Tom says anyone who thinks the Brandon Graham deal isn't good should quit watching football and needs to pay attention to how the market shaped out. Agreed, Tom. Totally agree. Bill Middlebrook, he says, Brandon Graham, everyone thought he was gone. Great signing, and it looks like a lot of guys are reconstructing their contracts to stay, which is awesome.
Amen,
It's what happens when you have a winning organization, an organization that has one, when you have a franchise quarterback, when you have franchise players like Fletcher Cox, and people want to play with these guys. Absolutely. Rob Brinkman says, what free agents are they going to get? Lots of cap space. I think they're going for one big dog. It's not going to be a huge surprise, but I can tell you his initials are not AB. We're going to definitely dig into that in No Huddle for sure. And I think a little bit later as well. Yeah, trying to save it.
Trying my best to hold back.
Zach Boylan says Howie is a genius. They should extend Nelson as well. I totally disagree with the Nelson point. I'm totally fine if they get rid of him, trade him, whatever they do.
But I don't on a longer, cheaper contract. You're saying you wouldn't want him.
It would depend. It would depend. I'd have to see the numbers. But I don't see the big thing about Nelson. He had a phenomenal year 2 seasons ago, and I don't feel like there was any steps forward, and not a lot, but there was enough steps back that I'm still
He had the same numbers except for touchdowns.
questioning.
Except for touchdowns, he had the same numbers.
But it wasn't – he was such a pivotal point at important points in the game. Like, I also think that there's a lot of garbage numbers that guys get. Quarterbacks put up numbers in garbage time towards the end of the game. I didn't see him being a playmaker this season. I didn't see him –
Second Cowboys game.
Everybody has a couple of points here and there, but I'm talking about there's other guys on this team that stepped up.
I agree that he didn't
take a step forward.
I feel like he
allowed himself to get lost in the shuffle, and he had weeks where he took off. 2 years ago, this guy was out there every week, and even if the ball wasn't in his hand, he was doing enough on the field to open up opportunities for everybody else. I feel like he got completely lost in the shuffle a lot this season.
So he did. I agree he didn't take a step forward that many, especially me.
I'm not saying he had a huge regression, but there was enough steps back that at this point in his career, he should at the worst be maintaining his level. He shouldn't be taking one step back, let alone 2 or 3.
I don't think he took one step back.
I do.
I mean, touchdowns.
I do.
If you talk about touchdowns are very, 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 very like coincidental in the unless you're an elite talent. Touchdowns fluctuate each year for people.
I don't get caught up with the touchdown thing.
If you take away the touchdowns, which is the only stat where he regressed, he pretty much had the same stats. And, yeah, he struggled in certain games, but he also had several games, obviously, where he played great. So, overall, in the big picture of the season, he had this numbers-wise, he had the same year. And you're talking about someone who, from the slot, even after – and Doug P. talked about this. When Tate was traded for, that made it hard for them to find roles for Nelson and Tate. And so you're factoring in the fact that they were struggling to how to get them to play together.
That's a
in
problem.
terms of scheme. That's a
problem with your shitty offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but that's not Nelson's problem. So you're talking about even with Tate here, where they were struggling finding ways to get him the ball, he still had the same numbers as last year.
To me, Nelson is replaceable. He's not a guy that you
I
look
didn't
at
say he wasn't replaceable.
I think you could find guys at cheaper if they restructure or they sign him to a less money for 2 or 3 years. I told you I would look depending on the numbers. I'd be open. I'm not saying like it's not one of those, I never want to see the guy in an Eagles jersey again. Because there are guys on teams that we talk about.
Yeah.
If I never have to see him again, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I think Ryan said earlier, if I never see James Ennis in a Sixers jersey again, it'll be too soon.
Yeah.
You know, there's guys that are like that. I'm not putting him on that level. All I'm saying is he isn't, to me, he is an expendable piece. He's not a cornerstone piece. He's not a guy that you can't go out and find other guys just like him for less money. So if I can open up more cap space or find a more suitable replacement who can give me similar or better production, I'm 100% on that. I don't look at him as a guy who say we have to extend him.
That's fine.
That's the point I'm making.
That the reason why I jumped on it is because there are other people that have commented on social media saying that he should be moved. There are a lot of people that are saying that that are eager to trade him. Now, if he's at a $9 million cap hit and that's the only possible way we keep him on the team, I don't disagree with that. However, by all reports is that they're trying to work on a longer, cheaper deal with Nelson. And if that's the case, I don't see why people are eager to trade him. He has rapport with Carson. He has rapport with the locker room. He fills the role in this offense beautifully, and he's a great locker room guy. Is he replaceable in terms of a talent? Of course. But is he someone where you automatically become a better team because you get rid of him, or you wouldn't lose anything offensively if you got rid of him? No, you get rid of Nelson, you absolutely take a step down until you find someone who is as good as him to fill in his role in the slot. And I think that I agree that he's not inexpendable. He's expendable. You can if the price is right, if the trade offer is great, I'm willing to trade Nelson. I was taken aback when that first initial report came out that they're open to trade talks with him, and then people were like, "Oh yeah, get rid of him." I'm like, "Whoa, where is all this thing for Nelly coming out where people want him gone so eagerly?" It took me by surprise, and not everyone was saying that. I'm just saying there were people. I had one guy in one of the groups. He was comparing Nelson to Riley Cooper, saying that Riley Cooper was better.
Yeah, no, I mean that's
that's
ridiculous.
Whoa, what?
But I can understand some frustration because it looked. He's a first-round pick, and it looked like 2 years ago he finally turned the corner. Now, one thing he has done is not drop footballs. Thank God, because that was an atrocity to watch for the first few
He actually
seasons.
has one of the better hands on the team.
He has really good hands now. I mean, occasionally there's a drop, and, I point everyone
Yeah.
out. But that being said, at this point, being a first-round pick and the investment that the team put in him at the time, even if the numbers are the same, but you can still manage to fly under the radar the way that he did, and I don't think necessarily in a positive way, that's concerning at this point. He should be either maintaining a level, which I still say he's way too young, he should still have a higher ceiling, or he should be taking a step forward. And at this point, when you start now nitpicking, because we're coming up on Carson's deal,
yes,
and we're still trying to find ways to improve this team, and we do have some really, really massive holes on this football team. When it comes down to it and you say, where is there a guy who is expendable, who if he's gone, we can replace him, but we can utilize what we save on that to fill one of these much more pressing holes. He absolutely, in my opinion, falls into that category. And that's my issue. I don't really see enough now to where we say, oh, I need to extend this guy. If they can get it at a team-friendly deal, do it. I trust Howie. I trust it. But until that is done, until they say, hey, we reworked Nelson's deal, restructured, hopefully not a restructure. We terminated the last year, and we basically signed him to an extension or beyond. I think technically that would
have to be the case.
It would have to be probably something similar to Rodney McLeod, where you basically scrap the last year.
Yep.
And then, because he has nothing guaranteed, correct?
Nothing.
So if you have nothing guaranteed, they can literally just terminate his deal, no harm, no foul, and re-sign him to an extended deal.
To what we
know,
with that. Because we know it's complicated with NFL contracts. So what we know, I think they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's still a cap hit on a non-guaranteed deal at that point. I don't think there is.
I don't think there is.
But
I don't know if that violates any
I'm
hidden rules.
I'm
for
looking
contracts.
at I'm looking at guys on the team now, and it's like, all right, if Howie's still clearing space, who's the candidate that's out there? He's the guy I'm looking at.
He's one of them. That's fine. That's fine.
So, in other news, moving right along, we've heard. Well, obviously, we'll just Kelce's back. That's huge.
Yeah.
That is really big for the offensive line.
I don't see how anyone could be mad at that.
No, and I don't think anybody is. That's really big. That would have been such a huge void on this football team. And that's why I was so sold, because with Jason Peters as a potential cap hit, or cap casualty, and then the threat of is Jason Kelce walking away, that was what convinced me that we need to look at offensive line in the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going that way now. I do think the offensive line will be addressed, but I don't think it's a necessarily, unless there's like we say, can't pass guy who's sitting there. They don't need to go that route. I think that it's going to go more towards the defensive line, but I think that was a really big return as well. Nick Foles, we got some clarity on it, and let's just say I think it's pretty clear now. The Eagles made the right decision by not franchise tagging him. We talked about the risk. By franchise tagging Nick Foles and trading him, you're risking being stuck with the deal or not having enough interest in him. And it's pretty clear that they probably did their homework, because the only team that's out there on Nick Foles is Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I think that you would have really backed yourself into a corner by committing that much money. So I think it's safe to say the Eagles made the right move. How do you guys – I want Ryan to answer this one real quick too. How do you feel about Jacksonville being a landing spot for Nick?
You want to go first, Ryan?
Well, I won't fully answer it. All I'll say to your point on it looks like they're the only team. Are you sure? And I'll just leave it at that.
I really doubt it was New York.
Well,
I really doubt New York was ever interested, despite that report. I know there was a report out, but I really doubt it, because this is the dynamic you got to think about. They're already committing to Eli Manning for another year. They said it. The coach said it. They're bringing Eli back.
Yeah.
It
would make no sense to bring Nick Foles into New York
to what? Compete with Eli? And then what? You would have Eli if Foles wins. No, not saying if. When Foles would win that job, what does that do for the city of New York? One, and for that team who backs Eli. They all have Eli's back. So that's going to really, really screw up that dynamic. It was one thing. When they benched him. It was another thing to have freaking Geno Smith replace him.
Yeah.
But to me, that dynamic doesn't work.
See, I'm with Chucks. I agree, because we've talked about it a number of times, but you can't ignore the way that whole benching went down. This is your franchise quarterback, and he's going to be an icon for that team. He won 2 Super Bowls with this team, and he was very pivotal in those Super Bowl games to win those games for
Absolutely.
them. You can't ignore that, and you can't disrespect that on the way out the door. They didn't have to commit to him this year, but they made that commitment. So and if you talk to a lot of Giants fans, they're actually okay with him having another year, particularly because it's not a strong quarterback class. I don't think they want any of the free agents, including a Nick Foles that's out there.
Agreed.
They'd rather them figure out somehow in the next year or two how they can get a young quarterback. I'm surprised they're not in on Rosen, by the way. That
if I was
shocks
them,
me.
If I was them,
they are
I'd be
not
all in on Rosen.
They aren't?
I don't know if they are or not, but I would hope that.
I'm just saying, if I was them.
I wouldn't hope, but if I was a Giants fan, I would hope that they would be in on Rosen, because he doesn't need to start this year. He can learn behind Eli, and he is a suitable fallback plan if things don't work out for the Giants this year, and that's your quarterback of the future. Makes a lot of sense if Rosen would be the guy.
I'll save 95% of it for no huddle, but the Giants and Rosen, they're in on him. Just telling you.
Well, and if that happens, that makes a lot of sense.
I would actually be worried.
But that's even more of the point of, does it really make sense for Nick Foles to go to the Giants?
None.
It doesn't.
None.
And again, you're talking about, we screwed you once for Geno Smith.
We're gonna
Now
do
we're
it
gonna-
again
now-
for your division rival.
Now we're
who
going to
won
bring
the
in the
Super
division
Bowl.
rival, right? Who? Listen, I mean, I'm going to say it. I always say it. I love him to death. Look at the numbers. He did not play that well last year. He played well
Wait,
enough to
wait,
win
which
us
one are you talking
games.
about? Which one
Nick
are you talking
Foles.
Oh yeah.
He played
He
well
played
enough.
one great game.
He played well
Texans.
Yep.
The Texans game was his one great game. Every other game was just okay.
There's a reason why the Eagles would not have been able to move him if they franchise tag him. And I think everybody else knows it.
Yeah.
Read Bill Middlebrook's very bottom comment.
All right.
That is the wavelength I was going on earlier.
Don't buy
so
the
he says, don't buy the
Jaguars.
Jaguars Foles stuff yet. I believe he could still go to Washington. Snyder is the type of guy that would do it.
Backup plan.
Not ruling out Washington either. I mean, if he's going in the division, I told you before, I think Washington is the place. I never saw the Giants as a sensible place.
No.
Wouldn't shock me if out of left field the Raiders get in on this guy, because that's just how crazy whatever's going on
I think
in Oakland or whatever, Vegas or whatever the hell they want to be classified as right
West
now.
Coast.
That's how crazy that organization is.
Tom, you're a jerk.
Who cares where Foles goes? LOL.
It's disrespectful.
You
Disrespectful, Big Daddy.
disrespectful son of a
But
bitch.
you are right. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Frank Vespi says, hey, yo, sorry to bother you at work. Howie's a pimp with these cap moves so far. Agreed. Jake says they're trying to get Bell. That's my big fish that I think they're trying to clear space for. Greg says, after all other defensive ends got tagged, you had to go with the devil, Timmy release might hurt us. I agree with that.
Yes.
Bill says, I'm not sure on the spelling, but do you guys know if they signed Worley?
I think he's talking about Paul Warlow.
Or Warlow, yeah.
Warlow, we already signed him.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's back.
Yeah, he'll be better for depth.
Zach Boylan says, speaks to the character and love of these guys have for that team and how much they want to win to create this room. Agreed. Dion says, what's up, guys? What's up, Dion? Says, I'm happy with all the re-signings thus far. Absolutely. Seumalo's deal was a bit of a shock, but I get it. He may be our next starting center after Kelce's contract's up in 2021.
Snap the ball.
Plus, he does play every position on the front line, so why not have or keep a guy like that in the back pocket? I agree. Flexibility is so important,
Absolutely.
particularly with a defense that rotates the way that we do.
Absolutely.
Zach Boylan says same numbers with Tate taking touches away. He says 4 years, $30 million for Nelson. Get it done. I don't know. I want to give him that
What
much
did he
money.
say?
4
How
years, $30 million. Get it done.
So that'd be $7 million.
I don't want to give him that much.
That's That's still a little high. I'd go a little bit cheaper.
You start
I'd go a
talking
little
in the
bit
4 or 5 mil range, and you might have me on board. John Malma says trade Nelson, try to get a third or fourth round pick. You won't get that for him. Maybe a fifth or sixth. Money off the cap.
No, I think a fourth round is good. I think you can get a fourth round.
I don't know if you could. I think you
I
get a
think you
fifth
get a
for him.
fourth.
I don't know if you're going to get I don't know. We agree to disagree.
Yeah.
John says trade Nelson, try to get a third or fourth pick, money off the cap, get 2 running backs. Tevin Coleman, you're not going to get him. He wants way too much money.
Yeah.
And draft Montgomery from Iowa State. Second round, defensive tackle first round. Second round, Montgomery, and linebacker from Bama. If we can get a 3 or 4th round pick for Nelson, move up for the O-line. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
That's
not a bad scenario.
I would prefer other guys, other running backs, but
Zach says, and bring J-Matt back to be the number 4. I agree.
yes, the wide receiver for GOAT. You have to bring Matthews back.
I'm with Chucks, man. I'm a Jordan Matthews guy. He might be the 4 GOAT.
The 4 GOAT.
The 4 GOAT. Listen, how many times have we talked about it, and we were on board with it to begin with.
Yes,
I
we
was
were.
definitely on board.
Yes,
People
we were.
shit on him coming back.
Yes,
and
they
all he
did.
did was catch footballs, and then 2-3 catches he made were always at pivotal moments.
He had a touch. He had a couple of touchdowns.
I would have to look at the drop passes
just one.
numbers, but I can only recall 1 or maybe 2
I think it was just one.
season that he dropped.
Yeah.
So
And how many crucial catches? The catches that he had, a lot of them were in crucial points.
bring him back, baby.
Bring him back as your 4th wide
Bring him
receiver.
back.
He had-
The greatest 4th wide receiver ever to play the game.
He had half the touchdowns in that Saints game. And I'm not lying.
I know.
You're not lying.
Bill says, I think somebody in the draft could step right in and play slot, get rid of Nelson, or he needs to reconstruct. But I do believe he plays a lot better with Tate gone. Jerome Carey asks, are we keeping Golden Tate? No, I think his price tag's going to be too high, unfortunately. I wish we could. I think a full training camp would probably do a lot better. And if you move Nelson, I think it would open up some opportunities for him. But I don't think he'll be back, unfortunately. Bill says, don't. Oh, that was the Jaguars thing earlier. So John says, was smart letting Foles go. We wouldn't have gotten better than a third-round pick anyway. No need to take the risk of getting stuck with his contract and issues in the locker room. I agree. Really, we're in all likelihood, we're looking at possibly getting a third-round pick back anyway. You're just getting it. You're getting it a year later. You won't have it this year. Considering all the
draft
drafts
this year. It's
yeah,
fine.
I mean, we have a lot of draft picks this year to work with anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't a necessity to get it this year. Tom says it's the truth. He's not an Eagle anymore. All in on 11, boys. Bill says, I actually agree with Thomas Arnone. I love Foles and everything he's done, but I honestly don't think he's going to be that successful as a starter. I'm not Kyle. I don't think he's I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was, but I don't think he's going to be setting the world on fire. I don't think he's going to be an organizational changer for, say, Jacksonville if he goes there. But what he will be is a huge step up from Blake Bortles.
But that's the thing. This is why I think Jacksonville is a great spot, because they made it to the AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles. If you have Nick Foles there, what can they do? Like they don't need, with a team with that talent on defense, and their O-line is really good. They get a few more pieces on offense. They don't have to have Foles carry them. They don't. That's the one situation where Foles doesn't have to carry the team. That defense carries the team.
Yeah.
That's why I think Jaguars are a good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to go there. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, all I took out of it was that we made the right move by not franchise tagging him.
Yes.
At this point, I'm kind of with these guys. As long as it's not the NFC East, I don't care where he goes. Mm-hmm. I really don't. And if it's Washington,
we already had.
He's
going to
come to the division.
We already had McNabb go there anyway. It's nothing new.
Joey DiBardino, what's up, Joey? Says, Tom, don't piss off the Philesians.
Philesians.
Oh, Philesians.
Can we call them that now? Philesians?
Yes.
Best of the week.
It sounds like a disease. Let's call them that. It really kind of is a disease when you think about it with the nonsense. It's like you get this like brain-eating disease that gets into your head and starts eating away at your common sense and ability to think like a logical human being. You have the Philesian disease. We're going with it. Fuck Folesians. We're going Philesians from here on out. See, I don't call them Philesian or I do call them Philesians. I don't call them Folesians. I call them Folians. I don't put the S in there. So it confused me. It looked like Philesians. I have a medical train of thought from my EMT training, so it sounds like a disease. And it is a disease.
It is. I love it.
Philesians. We're going Philesians from here on out. Zach Boylan says, like $20 million guaranteed for Nelson.
Over what, 4 years? That's $5 million a year. That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah. Is that what he said?
But that's the guaranteed money. Is he giving him more with that $20 million guaranteed? Like $30 million with $20 million
20 guaranteed. No, I'd go a little bit lower.
I would do
like 12.
Sign him at $20 million with like 12 or 13 guaranteed. And you got me on board for 4 years.
I think that's good.
Dion says Oakland was a twist. I didn't think about as far as Foles goes. Miami reportedly are trying to trade for Matt Stafford. That would be interesting for Miami.
What?
I don't know what Stafford is at this point, though.
I don't know.
Overrated?
He just doesn't.
Well, I'm on that board. I've been saying it for years. I've been on the Matt Stafford's an overrated quarterback. He doesn't belong in
Detroit, that's for sure.
He's a great fantasy football quarterback.
Yes. Hollow numbers.
He says if that does happen, I see Jacksonville and or the Raiders in his future. I think he goes to Jacksonville. I don't think he's going to want any part of what's going on in Oakland or Vegas or wherever the fuck they are. He says, I don't see any NFC East teams. I don't believe Nick is that kind of human being. Selleck turning down Dallas and Washington.
That's true. I mean, I agree with that.
I kind of think that, but at the same time, I mean, it's a business. If it's the most logical position for him individually to go when you talk about playing and financially, he'll go. And I won't hate him for that. If it was Dallas, it'd be a little different story. I don't think there's any chance to Giants. Washington, I do think, is a team to look out for. Joey says, how about 4 years, $8 million for Nelson? Yeah, I'm all on board with that. Zach Boylan says, do we want Hicks back? Back, boys, and for what?
If it's for like the vet minimum, I'll bring Hicks back.
I don't want him back for what I think another team will give him.
Yeah.
So
yes,
I mean,
yes.
To me, Hicks is already kind of in the peripheral for me. I don't really have him on the radar of being on this team next year.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. Let's go to.
Yeah, let's get the YouTube fam in. I'm
so
sure that's probably been flying.
SJM.
What up,
yeah,
SJM?
He's been active. SJM does say, fam, what up? On day work now, so I can tune in faithfully. I missed your thoughts on Justice Hill last week, Chucks, and I did tell him that I didn't get to Justice Hill last week because I was waiting for him. So when we get to the Combine recap in the second half of the show, I'll go back and I'll talk about your boy SJM.
Hey guys, is Nick Foles playing tonight? Or Nick Foles, Markelle Fultz playing tonight? I can't get anything right tonight.
I don't know.
Was that a serious question? Is he?
No.
I was gonna say. I'm like, where have you been?
Sidebar, shocking revelation. Markelle Fultz is not expected to play for the rest of the season.
Shocker, he doesn't
Oh,
want to
wow.
play basketball anymore.
Shocking revelation.
He just wants to eat Chick-fil-A.
God,
That's all he wants to do. Cassius Cliff says Graham being back is clutch, but the restructures are pivotal to get game-breaking playmaker
Yes.
at wide receiver or running back.
Running back.
SJM says something tells me, and I'm indifferent about that the Eagles are gearing up for a run at Le'Veon.
Yep.
Which is what you're alluding to.
Yep.
Cassius Cliff says, I think, we're shooting for Bell, but I think Ingram would be great too. I disagree on Ingram. I think he's on his way down. I don't want to re-sign a veteran like that's like 30.
I would rather if we're not going to get Le'Veon, but still go and splurge on a running back. Campbell is the guy that I'm looking at, or Coleman.
Yeah.
Tevin
Coleman.
Campbell. I keep doing that.
I'm
I'm never not going to do that in my life.
Yep.
Tevin Campbell is the R&B artist from the 90s.
Yes.
And I can never not get that right.
Yeah.
They're the only two Tevins I know. And their names are eerily similar.
Yeah, they are.
Eerily similar.
Vester Lettuce Letuchitoki.
Ironically enough about that, too.
Vester.
Before you get to that, ironically enough, just another sidebar because I like sidebars. Tevin Coleman and Tevin Campbell. Tevin Campbell's most famous song is called Can We Talk? And he says in it, I just want to know your name, and I can't get either fucking name right.
You're so stupid.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
It all makes sense.
Vester says, evening fellas, fly Eagles fly. A bunch of them, like SJM and Cassius, do say that they were definitely getting a defensive tackle. North Dakota Mama says, good evening, guys.
What's up, North Dakota Mama?
Brandon Graham saved so many games but never got the credit. Glad his smiling face is back. I don't think
He does
is
have
a
a handsome
captain, but
smile.
should be one. He wasn't a captain last season, but in 2017 he was a
Previous
captain.
year he was, yeah.
SJM does say Bennett was unhappy with the rotation, how he will move him. So maybe
Who was that?
SJM does say that Bennett, Michael Bennett, was unhappy with the rotation.
See,
so
I disagree with that. I mean, early he said it was a bit of a change, but at the end of the season he said he didn't mind it because he said, "Oh wait, I don't have to play every snap anymore."
I mean, yeah,
You know what I mean?
Well, he was also at that point he was also starting to play more snaps
Because he had to.
because he had to.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe it's a little bit of both. It's very possible it's a little bit of both. But SGM says, yep, those initials are LB. Le'Veon had a year off. Still young and a dual threat. It's a hell of a fit. Cool P19 says, can't wait for free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Neither can we. That's next week. Oh, my God.
Great thing about NFL free agency. The complete opposite contrast of what we just saw in Major League Baseball. Everybody signs in the first couple days, pretty much.
It's going to be a crazy couple of days on these
Like,
shows.
you don't have that shit just sitting
next
out
week,
there.
Next week, we're going to be flying with
Breaking.
things to say. Yeah. Because they have that, the legal tampering period, which is technically free agency period. I don't even know why they do that.
It's
crap.
stupid.
It's stupid. It
Another
starts on
gray
Monday.
area.
It starts on Monday, so we already have a lot to talk about next week. But that pretty much, that does it for Cassius Cliff does ask, if not Ingram in free agency, then who? Personally, Cassius Cliff. Tevin Coleman. I've said Tevin Coleman is the only guy in free agency Besides also a Jay Ajayi, if it's a cheap 1 year prove-it deal. Tevin Coleman and Jay Ajayi are the only guys in free agency I'd be interested in. Beyond that, draft someone. That's my thing. There's no running back that I'm like, go get him.
There's 4 guys on my radar. Le'Veon Bell, and I absolutely believe that they are making a run for him. Tevin Coleman.
Nice.
Tevin Coleman. I had to think about it. Damn. Jay Ajayi and Darren Sproles. 2 potential in-house. If they're going outside, I do believe they're going big fish, and it's going to be one of the other 2. I don't see Ingram on the radar, and I do believe that there's going to be bad blood for a lot of the bullshit that he pulled last year with this, with taunting the Eagles, through social media and everything else
here.
as well. I don't know that he would sign here, and honestly, I don't know that they would want to bring him in.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I really don't see
it. And at this stage in his career, it's not like he's a young guy to where you overlook that stuff and say, all right, he'll outgrow that. Like, he's a veteran. He's been around. And you're right. He's inevitably starting to hit that point where the downside's coming. And I don't think you mess with that at this point.
Cassius says Coleman is hurt too much. Cassius, you might have him confused with Devontae Freeman. That's hurt too
Freeman
much.
Is the one that's hurt
because Freeman's the one
time.
that's hurt all the time. Coleman has missed 1 game, and that was Week 17 of last year.
Yeah, he's
Coleman is the guy that has
very
been
reliable.
Yeah, he's very reliable. Yeah.
Bill Middlebrook says, not here, don't need him, would take Bell first.
Over who?
I'm not sure who.
I think they're talking about Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
AB.
Absolutely.
Get it out of your head, guys. Not happening.
Not happening.
Not happening.
That whole saga, I don't know. It's, to me, it's just a bunch of idiots. I think they're both idiots. I think both Ben and AB are both idiots. And you know me, I've been high on AB for years, but this whole thing, I'm like, guys, grow up. Grow the hell up. Your egos are so huge right now that it's like, just shut up, grow up, and just play. But I mean, that's just me. I don't think I don't have a side. I think they're both
clearly
look like idiots.
Clearly, looking at the way that the Le'Veon Bell situation went down, and then in turn now seeing your second cornerstone player in Antonio Brown and the way that that's going down, there is definitely something a riff in that organization, and very clearly with Mike Tomlin, it's Ben or bust. He's the guy. Everybody else is a second afterthought. Don't touch Ben, and that's it. And to me, at this stage, particularly in Ben's career, you're backing and riding the wrong horse out of that whole trio right there. I'm looking at and there's fault to the players and a lot of fault as well to the organizations or the organization for the way that they've handled the situations. Now, I understand with the AB situation that the owner did try to reach out to him, but something has to have gotten to a certain point to where he doesn't even want to pick up the phone for the owner. There's a problem there. And I would be really, really cautious if I'm any free agent at this point to get myself locked in with that organization without having clarity of what's been going on there over the last 2 years that is creating these kinds of distractions and situations in Pittsburgh. And it's a shame because it's a storied franchise who year in and year out seems to be there. For me, they need to change the head coach. That would probably fix a lot of problems on that team. I think that Mike Tomlin is super overrated. I think he won a Super Bowl on the coattails of what Bill Cowher and the culture that he built there with his defensive coach. Why can't I think of him off the top of my head right now? Who was their defensive coordinator for like 25 years.
Wait, who, for Steelers?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Wasn't he the guy who went to the Browns?
Yeah.
No, he went to the Titans.
Yeah, he's with the Titans.
I
feel like it starts.
Titans defense. I'm really.
I don't want to Google because I'll feel like an idiot that I.
He's one of the all-time greats. Dear Lord, this is really bad. I don't know why.
I got it.
It's not popping up. If someone can. Dick LeBeau.
Dick LeBeau.
Dick
I was
LeBeau.
going to say I think it's Dick,
Yeah.
but I couldn't think.
Yeah, Dick LeBeau.
Yeah, Dick on my mind. My bad. Anyway, but yeah, no. Get AB out of your head, guys. I don't think AB is happening. Focus. The Le'Veon thing I thought was outlandish. But I think it's much more realistic than we thought
It's
at this point.
it's getting traction. I still doubt it. Like I was at like a 2% it's gonna happen. Now I'm probably at like a 5 or 10%. But it's growing.
Oh, what a real
It's growing.
what a real upgrade
But it's
that
growing.
is.
It's growing.
Jeez.
It's growing.
Gotta calm down over there, Chuck.
Such a
Six-
pessimist.
What was it? 65%.
Are you?
65.
What are
Wait
you?
till I get 65%.
What are you more confident in? Le'Veon Bell coming to the Philadelphia Eagles or Donnell Pumphrey
Oh,
even showing up on the practice squad?
Le'Veon Bell.
And that's your boy.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
My
Like,
fellow,
we'd have a
my
Pumphrey
fellow,
jersey on the goat wall.
my
if we
fellow
could.
Pinoy, my fellow Filipino, yes. My boy. I think my legs are thicker than his.
Who
My-
has a
my
better
feather
chance
thighs.
of playing on the Philadelphia Eagles next year? Le'Veon Bell or Jordan Mailata?
Playing on the Eagles, you mean like getting a snap?
Playing on
the
on the
field?
field.
the field at Lincoln
Actually a
Financial
legitimate
Field.
That's-
question.
that's
That's
a
actually a
legitimate
really
question.
good question.
I'm going to say by a smidge Le'Veon.
Okay.
By Le'Veon.
Okay.
I'll be real, because I don't think Mailata's anywhere close yet to being ready. That's why.
All right, who has a better chance of getting on the actual field, Mailata or Pumphrey?
Mailata.
Mailata, yeah.
And Mailata.
Is Pumphrey still in the practice squad?
Yeah.
No, no, he's not.
I'm pretty sure.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Last
Yeah,
time
because he was practicing with Sproles yesterday.
doesn't mean he's on the practice squad. I think they just work out together. But
I don't know.
I
if
could
there
be
are
wrong.
relationships like that.
I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
It's amazing as I've totally baited this, and we've had way more conversation
That's what happens every time.
about Donnell Pumphrey than
It
we
happens every
actually needed to have. But I know that
time.
Chucks loves him, and I wanted to make sure that we gave
Thank
him
God.
his suitable time. I didn't want to pull a
Oh,
Matt Damon on the Kimmel show here and not get to the Donnell Pumphrey
Donnell
conversation
Pumphrey.
of the night.
It's pretty much equivalent, too.
Guys, listen, great first half of the show. Second half, we're going to talk. Chucks is going to talk because I ain't my thing. We're going to talk a little bit of the combine recap. We're going to talk about some free agency potential things coming up, which we kind of touched on anyway. We're going to do No Huddle. We're going to go a variety of things in No Huddle. Thank you to our first half sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants, making yours, GibsonMayer.com. Also, Specialized Physical Therapy. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Scanzano Sports, as always, sponsoring our poll question. Again, Chucks will be here on the second half. Mr. Brodo will be here on the second
be
half.
here.
Make the jump, guys, from Twitter, from Periscope, from Instagram, from Facebook. We'll drop the link. You guys drive it. Looking forward to getting deep in with the YouTube fam. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. What up, fam? We're back. Birds of a Feather live on a2dradio.com. We are on the YouTube, ready to talk to the YouTube fam and anybody that made the jump. We appreciate it. Apologize for the extended break, but it was a very intense final minute and a half of the Sixers game. And
Yes, it was. We came out on top.
We needed to be totally invested in that. So we are back. Sixers big win over Orlando. Much needed win. Over Orlando. Oh,
let there be light.
Much needed win. Huge win. So it's a good night.
Yes.
It's a good
yes,
night.
Yes.
Our Scanzano Sports poll question: are you happy with the re-signing of Brandon Graham? Yes or no? We're brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours. GibsonMayer.com and Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton, New Jersey. Find them on the web at specializedphysicaltherapy.com.
Hell yeah.
We talked a lot about the Eagles' moves that have been happening over the last few days. Big stuff happening. Chucks, I know you're a combine guy, so this is your moment to shine, little man.
Well.
This is it, little man. This is your chance.
Well.
How do you feel? All right, so give us your analysis of the combine. I only have one thing to contribute to this, and I will contribute it.
You want to do it now or?
I just love Charlie Casserly's 1 minute clip on what he's heard about Kyler Murray to this point, which he said it is the worst feedback he has ever gotten on a top-ranked quarterback prospect. And his exact words, or to this nature, were, quote, "And I've been doing this for a long time." I forget the host that he was with on NFL Network. He said, probably longer than you've been alive, and I've never had worse feedback. And that's not his. Because some people say, Charlie Casserly, though, you gotta take some of what he says with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Were you the one that said that?
He's not as bad as some.
That was my colleague today at work who said, you got to be careful. I said, right. But this isn't the feedback that he's giving. This is what was given to him.
Yeah.
From interviews that were conducted with Kyler Murray. I believe he said leadership, not good. Study habits, not good. What was the other one, Chucks?
Leadership, study habits, knowing the plays.
There was a couple of things he went.
Chalkboard, not good.
Failing grades across the board.
Yeah.
So we talked about it a lot. Is Arizona making the smart move by moving Rosen and moving on from him and going after Kyler Murray? I stand by what I said last week. The only team to me that makes any sense for Kyler Murray would be Pittsburgh, a team that he can go sit behind Ben. I think Pittsburgh is a good spot for him. He could sit behind Ben. He has weapons on that team, and he has an already built offensive line that he could play behind because I still feel like he is so undersized, and with some of the concerns that have come out about him, I think he's going to need to sit somewhere and learn for a year, and I'm worried that he's going to play behind an offensive line that's going to he's going to get punished back there.
Yeah.
And for his size, I would have a lot of concerns with the longevity for him. I still feel like he's going to get a rookie deal, and he's going to play out that rookie deal, and he'll be young enough when it's over to go back to baseball. I think in the end, he's going to somehow end up back in Major League Baseball. But I could be wrong. We'll see. Some people say, well, you could play a Baker Mayfield type of offense with him or a Pat Mahomes or these guys. I don't say it, but we'll see.
Well, you got to also consider, and I think Charlie Casserly did talk about this, Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes, Murray doesn't have the type of intangibles they do in terms of smarts, leadership, like passion for the game. According to these interviews, Murray doesn't have any of that. That's a big thing.
And what I'm seeing with him is this is a guy who is chasing a paycheck, not necessarily following the passion for the sport.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he is more passionate about football, but he thought baseball was his best thing. But it seems like it's not being conveyed very well. And I would have a lot of concerns if I'm any NFL team of what is this guy's motives for wanting to come into the league Is it that he wants to cash in and get paid the quickest? Which, listen, there's a lot of guys
That's
who are
a
like
motive.
that.
I mean,
I don't know that I would commit the first overall pick for a guy that has a question mark
absolutely
like that.
not. I wouldn't. Well, the Cardinals,
Particularly
I don't
when
know.
you have a young quarterback already in place who has a very high ceiling going forward.
Yeah. But, hey, we're not Cliff Kingsbury. We're not the Cardinals. I mean, there are a lot of question marks now I have about Murray, even more so than I did before. What is, like you said, his motives? Is it possible that he's, in a way, maybe not deliberately, but maybe, like, subconsciously, he bombed those interviews because he knows he's going to the Cardinals? Did he bomb those interviews because he just doesn't have the passion for the game, as he knows that in his back pocket is baseball? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks now about Murray.
A few weeks ago, my colleague had said to me previously, he said, have you ever actually heard Kyler Murray in an interview and talk about football and everything? And I said, no. And he said, you need to watch them. And today, that was the discussion we were having. This is a Giants fan, a very, very, very knowledgeable football fan. And he said, I showed him that clip, and he said, that's everything I wanted you to see weeks ago, because this is a trend for this guy. That's why I don't think he's bombing it because he knows he's going to Arizona. This seems to be an ongoing thing with him. Now, maybe his actions on the field, as far as the way he plays, tell a different story, and he just doesn't speak to it properly. But this has been an ongoing thing with this guy, that people question all of those things.
Yeah.
His leadership and this and that. He doesn't convey that very well when you speak to him. So I don't think it has anything to do with him going to Arizona. I just think that he has that luxury now as a fallback.
Yeah.
And I told him, you're right. I'm probably going to have to go back and get a little better feel for this kid. Going back, and he said, you Google stuff on YouTube, you can find a lot of him talking previously about similar stuff that he's probably being asked about in the combine. He said it's not very good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of concern, because I was busting his balls saying the Giants might move up and get him. He might fall to the Giants, and Giants are going to take. He said, no way, and I don't want him. And this was a lot of stuff that I'd heard about previously. So hearing Charlie Casserly say that from the feedback he got from the combine and the interviews that he took with teams, echoed everything that I was told previously, doesn't shock me.
And I heard that his press conferences and meetings with the media were all bad too. Like a lot of the podcasts that I listened to were there. They're all there. They were all there at the combine. They said Murray's interviews and the meetings were not good. He barely wanted to answer questions and all that. So it's,
and again, that's an attitude issue now.
Yeah.
What is this kid's motives? That he doesn't want to answer questions? Is there an entitlement because he won a Heisman Trophy, and that he feels like he should be able to get his payday? I don't know. I mean, I don't. It sounds like I'm rooting against the guy, and I'm not. I don't root against guys. But if I don't see it, I call it as I see it.
Yeah.
And I don't see it there. I believe that he is only going to the NFL because of the paycheck. And I believe some of the reports that had he not won the Heisman Trophy, baseball would have been the route he was going. But because he knew that he had that extra bargaining chip by winning the Heisman Trophy, his stock would rise and he could get a quicker payday. I believe that full-heartedly.
I think that now what it comes down to is, what are the Cardinals going to do? Because it's also been reported by Tony Pauline, I believe it broke it. Tony Pauline from, I think, draftanalyst.com. He said that it's pretty much a lock that the Cardinals are going to take Murray with the first overall pick. I don't know how much I believe that, how much I want to believe that. Yeah, I know, I saw that too. I don't even want to look at it anymore.
It's pretty gross looking.
Yeah, it's gross looking. But it's why. Part of me wants to say that I think that the Cardinals are putting all this out there as a smokescreen to bait teams to want to trade for Murray and draft him in the top spot. But if they're trying to do that, that's the thing. If they're trying to do that, I don't know if it's going to work anymore because if Murray's interviews were bombed, no teams are going to want to trade for him. No teams are going to trade for the top spot. So I don't know. I really don't know. If I'm the Cardinals, I can't comprehend wanting to trade Rosen and pick the big question mark that is Kyler Murray, except for the fact that Kingsbury, if I correct me if I'm wrong, was that his college coach or something like that? Yeah,
correct.
So besides that, I mean, maybe they are the one team because Kingsbury was his coach that they feel they can coach him or get him. But with Josh Rosen, man, like he is. When I scouted him last year, and I've only seen a little bit of Murray, so I'll be fair there. But when I scouted him last year, compare his game tape to Murray, I absolutely would have Rosen. Absolutely. Like,
well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year a lot of people said the most NFL ready now is Darnold, but Rosen may have the highest ceiling of all the quarterbacks.
Yeah, the most talent.
As far
in terms of arm talent, absolutely.
So there's a lot to be said for that. This is a very underwhelming quarterback class, a very underwhelming draft to begin with compared to the last couple of years. And I don't buy the baiting other teams either because Rosen's name has been thrown out there a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I don't see them sacrificing the trust or confidence in a young quarterback simply to bait for a better return in terms of a trade at the draft.
Understandable.
So that alone to me tells me there's a lot of credibility. He's gonna go number one to them, no question in my mind. I just don't understand the logic of it. It makes it's very very. I just feel like it's a very naive pick. But again, you're right. If that's his college coach, maybe he feels like he knows more about him than anybody else.
The philosophy behind going after Kyler Murray, and I agree with you, Chrome. I don't think he's going to pan out at all in the NFL, to be honest, whether that's via injury or that's via just him as a player. I just don't think it works to me. I believe the philosophy with the Cardinals is that, number one, it's a panic move because they tried to win last year.
Yeah.
They thought they were. That's why they got Bradford and Glennon. And they clearly didn't have.
Clearly, they have a great track record of quarterback decisions.
Well, and it's clear that they didn't have an identity, or they didn't understand the true identity that they couldn't win based off of what they had or what they didn't have. So I believe they look at it as, okay, Kingsbury was his head coach in college, and getting Kyler Murray kind of solves two things at once. It solves your quarterback issue, and it solves your offensive line issue just because of how quick he is.
He can move.
Like I said, my biggest thing is he accurate? He is, but I just don't think he's going to last. I don't think the mental thing is there, and I don't think he's going to stay healthy.
So Bryce says, I don't believe the Kyler Murray, Casserly stuff. He's calling BS. He says, how can he do poorly and nobody else said it? Again, I don't know if you just chimed in, but the feedback from what I was told a couple of weeks ago, and this just kind of reconfirmed it, was this has been a trend for the way that he's responded to questions in regards to, his mentality with football. This has been ongoing before this process of the combine. So I don't know that I call it bullshit. I don't think Casserly has no reason to sabotage anybody. He has no reputation for doing that. I just think he's speaking what he was told.
Yeah. He's got connections.
And maybe it's just maybe there's teams out there who question the kid's heart and went into the meetings with a closed mind. And that could be very possible and maybe unfair to him. I don't know, but for some reason or another, he's not impressing people.
Well, I mean, from a team,
he doesn't need to though. You guys said it. He's going number one.
From a team standpoint, the point of those meetings and those interviews is to make the prospect's job or time there very difficult and uncomfortable. That's what they have to do. They have to see how they're going to react in a very, very uncomfortable environment. So they're going to ask all the difficult questions. They're going to be tough on him. They're going to be like hasty with questions and rude. How they react is a huge teller of how the whole thing is going to go, how they're going to perceive that prospect. So from a team standpoint, I can totally understand if they're like, all right, we have a closed mind. He has a reputation. Let's go in and try to poke the bear, because they have to. Because they have to. They're not going to go in all buddy and go easy on them and be like, hey, we think you're misunderstood. No, they're gonna test them.
No,
you know
when
what I
you
mean?
talk about the financial commitment and the organizational commitment, when you're taking a quarterback at 1 or 2 or 3, we've seen it with us, seen it recently with a lot of teams. I mean, look at the Rams. You make that commitment to that quarterback and that financial commitment, that's an organizational commitment for at least 4 or 5 years.
And that's
so you're putting a
oftentimes-
lot of things on hold by making that commitment.
And
so
the GM's job. That's oftentimes the GM's job. He's putting the job on the line when he signs off.
So you need to make sure, if he does have a track record of an inability to or a lack of desire to ask or answer football questions, they need to press that. They need to see if they could test that and see what his attitude is towards that kind of stuff. So I'm not rooting against the kid. I mean, in the end, listen, if he goes number 1 and he ends up being, a top 10 quarterback in the league, that's awesome. I think the odds are against him. And I always find it a good story for a guy who could define the odds. I just think that he's going to end up being in Major League Baseball in 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's
going to take a lot to convince me otherwise.
And to what you were saying about the QB class, from the little bit I've seen of Haskins and Murray, and those are the only two that it's between them two as the top quarterbacks. No one is like, you can talk about Drew Lock, but I don't think he's not a round 1 guy. So when it comes to round 1, it's Murray and it's I just had Haskins.
Yeah.
When I compare their games to the quarterback class of last year, and if you remember last year, I said, like, I don't think any of them have elite potential, but they all have potential to be, like, good, like, very good. If you had put their classes together, and I'm including Josh Allen, who was my 5th quarterback of that group, I still even think I would grade out Josh Allen to be better than these two prospects.
Yeah, Josh Allen might be the best quarterback prospect in this draft if he was in this draft.
I'd have to go back and watch more, but that's just how my base feeling so far. Like, Haskins is a safe quarterback. He has the intangibles. Like, mentally he's good, but he's limited. Like, I think his absolute ceiling is like around top 15-ish.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that stands out about him. And then Kyler Murray, we already addressed, his concerns. It's a very bad quarterback class.
Yeah, and again, I don't know the ins and outs specifics. I did see a report that in terms of his being drafted by Major League Baseball, there was some kind of a report that if he returned the signing bonus, then I think somehow it removes or it raises the ceiling of how much they can offer him, because Major League Baseball has a structure of where you're drafted, how much you get paid.
Yeah.
So I believe that it was something along the lines of if he returned his signing bonus, then essentially they could sign him to just about any kind of contract they wanted.
Okay.
They could literally match whatever NFL contract he is offered. It would be crazy for any baseball team to actually do that, considering it is a much more tedious task to get to the major leagues. It takes a couple of years.
Yeah.
And to put that kind of a financial commitment on a question mark, no matter how good you're supposed to be, that early without stepping in front of a baseball field is absolutely ludicrous. But that idea was tossed out there that could the A's offer him whatever his NFL contract level might be and try to convince him to play baseball. Now, I don't. They wouldn't do that. But I question if that was a possibility, would he go to baseball? I think he would. I really do. I think that his potential for success and longevity in Major League Baseball is much higher. The problem in professional sports, a lot more athletes tend to go to the NBA and the NFL because of the fact that there's immediate financial satisfaction there.
Uh-huh.
But I always think it's crazy. Like, if you have enough talent in baseball, if you believe in yourself that much. Now, there is a lot of question marks. It's very hard to get to the major leagues. But the earning potential over the life. We just saw Bryce Harper sign for $330 million over 13 years.
Yeah.
Fully guaranteed. They're talking about Mike Trout being a $500 million guy. I don't know if he's actually going to get that, but he could make $400 million.
It's crazy.
I mean, the worst bench players in baseball typically earn, if they're not in their arbitration, or even when they hit arbitration, they're making over $1 million. For the 25th guy on a team, usually, they're making close to or over $1 million or $1.5 million. So the earning potential in baseball long term is there, and usually a lot less wear and tear on your body. Which is why I stick to I think that he's going to
go to baseball.
At some point. You know, I've heard the idea floated out there. I think David Rosca put in, he could play both. No, he's not going to play both.
Nope.
He's not going to play both. Rosca also says he thinks that Dominican Sue will return to the Rams because he wants to win a Super Bowl.
I don't know.
Well, you guys don't. Never mind. I'm not going to be mean.
No. Anyway.
I was going to say, if he wants to go to win a Super Bowl, he's not going
to the Rams.
I think the Rams are further away than people thought they were. Bryce does say this quarterback class outside of Haskins and Murray are projects. 2020 class is better.
Yes.
Completely agree.
I do agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yep.
2021 is going to be good because of that kid from Clemson, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the other stuff from the Combine, the only other two names I want to bring up. Again, I just started wide receivers. So today, I just finished. My article for running back rankings is going to come out Thursday. That's all finished. Wide receivers, I started studying. The two big, one, in terms of running backs that stood out, Miles Sanders, Penn State running back. This is the guy that sat behind Saquon Barkley for the whole time Saquon was there. And as a junior, Sanders came out and started this year. It's only a year starting. And he's raw. And I'd watched 2 games of him before the Combine, and I was like, okay, he's got potential. I saw he had pretty good burst, good agility. He had some power, and that's all I thought. So I was like, okay, fourth round. I watched this guy's Combine, and all of his tests were around the top 10. I think in the agility test, the 3-cone, he was the top running back guy with the top time. In the short shuttle, the 20-yard shuttle, he was third. And after seeing that, I'm like, okay. And I heard also, I didn't watch it yet. I heard also in the receiving drills, he was by far the most impressive running back in the receiving drills. So I went back and watched more games of him. Man, with each game that I watch, I'm telling you, I like him more and more. I had him before as a 4th round guy, maybe late 3rd. Now I've boosted him up to the 2nd round. And you'll see where he ranks in my rankings article. But Miles Sanders from Penn State, if you watch this guy, he's got potential. Again, he's raw because he only started for 1 year. And he makes mistakes due to lack of experience. He has fumbling issues, and that's why I can see some people not being as high on him. But personally, for me, I seem to like him more than most. But I really am starting to get really enamored with this kid. He's got it all. He's got speed, burst, agility, receiving ability, power, contact balance, vision. He's got it all. And I think that he can be he's the most complete back in this class after Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is RB1 by far, but after him, I think it's Miles Sanders. So he really impressed me after his Combine, and watching more tape of him, he's really skyrocketed in my rankings. And the other big news out of the Combine was DK Metcalf. I'm sure a lot of people, I'm sure you guys saw DK Metcalf, the wide receiver out of Mississippi, at 6'3", 225, and with the body he has, absolutely built and sculpted, he ran a 4.3 340, and which is great. And also he had a good bench. I forget how many reps. He had 20 something. A good bench, good vertical, good broad jump. So those were great. but his agility tests were so bad. In the short shuttle and the 3-cone drill, I think it was like bottom 3% of wide receivers. So like his agility is really bad, and I think that's just something to point out. I think I would still have Metcalf. He's projected by many as like the almost unanimous wide receiver 1 in the class. He's going to go like top 5, top 10. I think I would still put him as my top wide receiver, but his separation issues and issues with agility and being able to get separation at the top of the route, I think, and I've watched a few games of him, I don't know if I'd go top 10 with him. I seem to be a tad bit lower on him than other people are, but he's still definitely a first-round wide receiver. When you're that size and you have that much speed, you are, as long as you can be elite in any category, you have a skill set that's elite, you can make it in the NFL. So a lot of people are comparing him to like a Josh Gordon. And saying like there are other wide receivers that have been really good that have had bad agility times, like DeAndre Hopkins, Jarvis Landry, guys like that. They've had bad agility times in the combine, but they're still really good. Des Bryant, another one. The difference with those guys is that guys like Hopkins and Bryant, they're big and they're very, very, very good at the catch point. Like you see, how many times have you seen Hopkins make incredible highlight reel catches? Like almost impossible. How great was Des Bryant in the red zone? He was like, when he was in his prime, he was like one of the best wide receivers in the red zone. I have yet to see that from DK Metcalf. I've yet to see him being that guy who can catch a 50-50 ball, who can get separation and on his deep route and just fly by the guy consistently. So I had to see more of that. That's why I'm a little bit lower on him, but he still is a first-round talent. And I think that you just gotta kind of take his agility test into context and say, okay, if he can't win with separation, he's going to have to win in other areas. So before anyone, because I know a lot of people have already been talking about, oh, like he's a freak, he's elite, like pump the brakes. He's got to show that he can be that type of receiver before anything, because he doesn't have the agility to separate.
A couple guys who Cassius Cliff asked us about. Hardman out of Georgia. Have you studied him yet?
Mecole Hardman, wide receiver. Not yet. He's on my list. I've heard really good things about Mecole Hardman. I really, really want to get to him, but I think he's like the third or fourth guy on my list. There's a bunch of them. Right? I studied Metcalf, Kelvin Harmon, and Riley Ridley. So I have them 3 down. But Mecole Hardman is definitely on there. I should by next week. Hopefully, I'll have him.
How about Travis Homer?
Travis Homer, I'm not that high on Travis Homer. I hear he's mentioned by some people, but to be honest, he would just be a late round draft pick for me. Maybe 6th or 7th round. I've watched 2 games of him and nothing really pops out. But I mean, maybe if I watch more, maybe I can see him sneaking up day 3. But to me, I don't see anything elite about Travis Homer where I can be like, okay, I can take him day 2. Like, to me, there's a bunch of this draft class with running backs. There are a bunch of them for some reason, more so than any draft class I remember. There are a bunch of running backs that are like your scat back, like your smaller scat back types. There's a whole bunch, and there's a whole bunch that can be taken on. I've been giving like round 4 grades, like a lot of them. Like Benny Snell's one of them. There's just a lot of round 4 guys that I feel like they're getting. So day 3 is going to be littered with talent probably that you can get. But Travis Homer, I haven't seen anything from him to really pop out at me. Hardman is nice. Bryce Blackwell says Hardman is nice. Homie is solid. Metcalf will get better on that. Yeah. So that's all I got for the combine.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Chucks does our combine review and our prospect review. We do a little bit. Well, you do a little bit each week. Again, that's your forte. That's not mine. So definitely keep checking in with us if you guys want to ask about specific guys. He's either going to have it already down or he'll make sure he's prepared for them next week. So we'll definitely get into those
Yeah.
next week.
We got a lot of time. We got 7 weeks. About 7 weeks and 2 days till the draft. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of time.
So your free agency preview. What do you got?
So, I mean, let's go. I mean, we had a lot of people that were tagged today. So DeMarcus Lawrence was tagged. Clowney was already tagged. Grady Jarrett was tagged.
Jarrett, I think, was a guy that you didn't think would get tagged, correct? Or am I wrong about that?
I don't remember, to be
Trying
honest.
to remember the list last
You could be
week.
right. I don't remember. I can think of. I have the list of here of people that were tagged. Sorry, guys. So Le'Veon Bell was not tagged. Landon Collins, which we'll get to, was not tagged. Foles was not. Trey Flowers was not tagged. He's someone where I was like, I think the Patriots would tag him, but they didn't. Frank Clark was tagged, which I said I think he'll get a long-term contract. I think it was reported that they are working on him with a long-term contract. Jadeveon Clowney, I said, was tagged. Grady Jarrett, DeMarcus Lawrence. D Ford was tagged.
Mm-hmm.
That's surprising. I didn't think he was going to get tagged, but he was. But C.J. Mosley was let go. He was cut. That's surprising. Steven Gostkowski wasn't tagged. So I mean, I know a lot of people. It was brought up by, I think, who brought it up? I think Justin Evans in the Real Talk group said C.J. Mosley being cut, that he should be a target for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the price is okay, if we have the room, I would absolutely love C.J. Mosley. He's a stud linebacker. He's only like 26 years old, so he's still young. I would take C.J. Mosley.
Eagles Crazy says, bro, we're getting Le'Veon Bell. Yes. I'm with you, man. I think that's the target for the Philadelphia Eagles at this point. Is this the time you want to chime in, Ryan?
That's up to you.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I was telling Chucks and Chrome before the show and everything that while it's very hard to predict what Howie Roseman is up to, because he's obviously, it seems like he's a step ahead of everyone, including sometimes his own organization.
Yeah.
I think I figured out what their plan is, because over the last handful of, I would say, 5 or 6 days, they've made a lot of moves. A lot of contract moves. They moved a lot of money, and obviously, the news, obviously, that they're not going to bring back Timmy Jernigan, to me, was a big surprise. And at first, and right now, honestly, I think it's a mistake. And then you hear that they're actively shopping Michael Bennett, and I think that's as well a mistake. So at no point do I 100% love what I'm about to say. It's not something I want. It's just what I think they're doing. I think their plan is twofold, and it goes back to two main things. Number one, with the defense. So when you hear that they're moving on from Michael Bennett and Jernigan, obviously they've moved on from Jernigan already. Michael Bennett just reported, but it looks like they're trying to. That's a lot of glaring. That's a red flag to me. There's a lot of alarms because those two really, they produce. Yeah. Obviously, Jernigan, who we talked about all last season, was somebody who I think is the most underrated part of that D-line. Mm-hmm. Because isn't it a little too coincidental that when he came back from injury, the defensive line started playing better? Yep. Fletcher had more room to do what he does.
Agreed.
Now, was the D-line horrible last year? No, but it was much freaking better with him. And you saw the production he had in the Super Bowl year.
Yep.
Huge.
Yep.
And then Michael Bennett, he was an A player. He was an A-plus player. I think when we went over our MVPs and all that stuff, he was, I had him as my MVP, above Zach Ertz and
I think
Jenkins.
I did too.
Defensively, he was my defensive MVP for sure.
So when you hear, we're going to move on from, that's a mistake to me. That's a big mistake. We're not rebuilding. We're not doing any of that. We're still trying to win, okay? I figured out what they're doing. It's, in my opinion, because this draft is so defensive heavy, I believe that Howie Roseman, Joe Douglas, and the organization, they want to get ahead of this thing. And they want to get young quicker instead of being a year too late and kind of like the Seahawks kind of got into to where they had a year or two of, oh, my God, this defense is really old and overpaid.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're kind of, I don't want to say they're going full rebuild, but they're rebuilding that D-line. Mm-hmm. So I believe that they're going to address it in this draft. Mm-hmm. But then you think, oh, wait, Ryan, you're just throwing kids in there to do the jobs of Michael Bennett, and Timmy Jernigan. No, it's only half of the plan. I believe that what they're going to do is they're going to go draft high on D-line, and then they're going to try and bring back Vinny Curry or Bo Allen
agreed.
for cheap. Because Vinny Curry, it's been reported that he's going to wait it out for a little bit. Therefore, the market's going to be much, much smaller for him, even around the draft or past the draft. Mm-hmm. You can bring him back for cheap. Obviously, I saw a report a couple days ago that they're actually in communication. And you heard, Vinny Curry, it's very obvious he would come back here.
Yep.
And same thing for Bo Allen. So you're mixing in, okay, a couple key draft picks with D-line who you can have as your future.
Okay.
And then you bring back veterans to kind of fill in the blanks.
Agreed.
Okay.
So that's what I think they're doing there. But you think, oh, wait, Ryan, why would you just rush to get rid of Michael Bennett or Jernigan? Money.
Absolutely.
Money. Why is Nelson Aguilar being shopped, or at least reportedly being shopped? Why is there conversation about Jason Peters maybe not coming back, or if he is, possibly as a pay cut? Why are they starting to restructure and backload money? Well, for one player, and that's Le'Veon Bell.
Yep.
He's coming here. And we've talked about it a lot. I've never been a big Le'Veon guy. I've criticized him a lot on the show.
Yeah.
But I've come down to it to where I don't love him, but I'll certainly take him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson and Joe Douglas look at it as their main priority, not the defense. How can we help one guy, Carson Wentz?
Yep.
How can we take pressure off of him? Well, that's getting Le'Veon Bell. So that's what I think they're doing, ladies and gentlemen.
It's almost like you spoke for me, because a lot of what I alluded to earlier fits exactly into that narrative, even to the point where I said the focus shifts off of the defense to how can we improve the offense and take the pressure off of Carson.
And that's how you do
So
it.
if for a year they become a team who maybe needs to put more points on the board and gives a few more points up, so be it. That'll be their identity, and that'll be fine.
They have the quarterback that can do it.
You sound like Tom, though, with Bryce Harper, where I don't love it, but I'll take him.
Oh, is that what he said with Harper?
That's the Harper
Really?
tick that we were on over and over. It's like I'm reliving the conversation.
Well, at least I don't share the Harper thing with Tom. With Harper, oh, no, I want him here.
Yeah.
Now.
But listen, literally every point you made is exactly why I have come around to a T. There's nothing that I wouldn't agree with that you said.
Sweet.
100% I agree with that. This is not A2D today. This is agree to agree with Ryan.
I feel like Chucks may disagree with a couple things because I saw him Christian pondering over there.
But that was Christian pondering. I like that.
Yeah.
But that was 100% spot on, because the only thing that justifies even entertaining the idea of cutting a Timmy Jernigan and having and moving a Michael Bennett with the production, I could kind of understand Timmy because of the injury issues. There has been some injury issues. So if you go that route, I get it. And I believe it was Bryce in here said the draft is deep in tackle and in free agents, so they can fill certain spots. Mm-hmm. That being said, Michael Bennett in the year he had last year and the way that he played with Fletcher, that would be a big blow. So in order to justify that, you're not going to refill that production necessarily through the draft. But can you compensate with somebody who can get the job done well enough?
Band-Aids.
Yeah.
For a year or two, and bring in a guy like a Le'Veon Bell to play with an Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Carson Wentz, and all those weapons behind that offensive line, which really you just got to figure out the tackle. 100%. I'm on board with that in spades. If that gets Le'Veon here, and I'm looking at him saying, well, it costs us Timmy Jernigan and it costs us Michael Bennett. 1 year of Michael Bennett, by the way, because he's not coming back after next year.
Yeah. Sure.
His contract's up. Cool. And that's why I always say, if I got to do a little patchwork, just a little bit, for the long-term gain, I'm doing it.
And I think they're also looking at it, and I would agree with it if this is their mindset, that, okay, even if we do move on from Timmy and Michael Bennett, our D-line could be worse because we still have Fletcher Cox, we still have Brandon Graham, we have Barnett, we have Long. You know what I mean? It would be fine, but it would take a step back.
All right. My Christian pondering that you saw of me, that was me actually taking in what you were saying, and
well,
I will. Oh God, asshole. I will boost my 5%, and I'll say I'm now probably at like a 25 or 30%.
Oh, we got the big jump.
That was actually a big jump.
That's
I was waiting for the. I'm going to go for my 5%. I'm going to go to 11.3.
No. What you said does make a lot of sense. And if that plan was to sign all those guys like a Bo Allen and Vinny Curry to fill in with the production, and then because the draft is very defensive heavy.
Chucks, I presented almost every one of those points in different spots over the last 2 weeks for the exact reason. And
But
that only got you to
at different
5%.
spot.
But because he's so young and handsome,
But at
all of a
different-
sudden you are up to 25%.
No, because he put it. You
Screw
did.
you,
You
Chucks.
have, but
You
he-
proved my point. You
he
don't
put-
listen. You don't Christian ponder when I talk.
I don't listen to you anyway.
I
No,
cut a
but
great promo.
he put no, but he put it whereas he was able to put it all together, and the fact that
And I agree with you, by the way, and we talked about that, all of us, the Vinny Curry thing. 100%, I think
Vinny Curry.
I think there's a very high chance that Vinny Curry comes back here.
and actually seeing, because we didn't get those reports about Bennett and about Timmy Jernigan being officially released. We didn't get the reports till this past week.
Yep.
So seeing all of that, now I'm starting to be like, okay, maybe it will kind of work out. Because my whole thing against the Le'Veon Bell thing has been twofold. It has been finances, which if you are making this room for him, it works out in the short term. Now, long term, that's where I still have a question mark. Carson Wentz's extension kicks in 2021. Le'Veon Bell still wants a long-term deal. That's still going to be an issue. Is it like still a deal breaker? No, I'm just saying that like it's still hard for me to conceive Le'Veon Bell taking any type of discount after sitting out a whole football season to get the contract he wants. And he wants a long-term deal with a lot guaranteed for about like $18 million average. And so on that, it's hard for me to say that he's going to budge from that. But if Howie Roseman, if there's any GM that can figure out the finances, it's Howie Roseman. I've said that all along. So I can start to see how that's starting to make sense. But at the same time, my second argument against the Bell thing still stands in place, and what Howie Roseman said at the press conference still kind of backs up my argument. When asked about upgrading the running back position and going after a Le'Veon Bell or drafting someone early in the first round, Howie Roseman hesitated and then said, well, there are multiple ways to skin a cat. And to me, based on how Doug Peterson and Deuce Staley have coached their running backs and have talked about running backs and keeping a rotation, and then Howie Roseman never, ever spending resources on a running back, it's hard for me to conceive that they will go from that end of the spectrum to going all the way in on a Le'Veon Bell. You get what I'm saying?
But there was also a time they never paid a wide receiver, and they forked out money for Alshon Jeffrey.
Yes, true.
There's a first time for everything when you talk about a special talent.
There's a first time for everything.
You go and get Le'Veon Bell. You can bring Donnell off the practice squad and let him be the third or fourth stringer at that point.
When we signed Alshon Jeffrey to that 1 year contract, it was still a cheaper contract than what his market value was saying. He signed here
much more
on
than
a
they
1
give
year.
to a wide receiver. Typically, though, they will stretch it for a special.
They'll
talent.
stretch it, but what I'm saying is he still came in on a discount compared to what the market said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Bell is not going to take any type of discount. I don't see it. I don't see Bell taking any type of discount. So you're going to have to meet Bell at his asking price.
No, but I feel like you could do that, and I do believe that he could be a guy. He'll still get his money, but he's a restructure guy down the road to where when Carson's contract comes up and you need to find ways, he's a guy. He's still going to get his money. It's not like he's not getting it.
Yeah.
But I could see him being a guy year 3 or year 4 who starts to defer some of that money so they can open up some cap space.
Absolutely.
I front load the deal as much as I possibly can.
The philosophy behind it still with how they view the running back position, it's hard for me to get past that. Like, I do believe that if they like a running back, they'll go after them. Hence the Dalvin Cook thing. They were trying to get Dalvin Cook, which is an argument I've been making. And so I get that if they like a guy, they'll go get him. But if they're going to spend all this money on Le'Veon Bell, if they're going to go for broke on Le'Veon Bell, you're pretty much throwing the whole committee thing out the window. Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
I mean, you have
so
to.
you're telling me, and would I be against it? No, I wouldn't be against it. But you can't. They won a Super Bowl with a rotation. Doug Peterson has said he likes a rotation. So I'm just putting it out. This is exactly what they've said. This is quotes from them.
Right.
So it's just hard for me to comprehend them going from that spectrum to the other end. That's all I'm saying. That's why I'm still at like 70-75% of it still not happening. But what you guys are saying, it does make sense, and that's why like I can start to see it a little bit.
The thing that, and I agree with everything you're saying, going back years and years and years, the organization has never used or viewed running backs in that way, ever. I completely agree with that. The
Not
last
since
time
LaShawn.
that they, well,
LaShawn
yeah,
was the last one,
and,
yeah.
and the last time they tried doing that was DeMarco, and obviously that didn't work.
out,
So
yeah.
that's a stain on that. But I would say this: while he has, they have had quotes talking about the running back by committee, and I've said numerous times that I think that's the way to go, and I think the NFL is starting to evolve in that because you can't game plan for just one guy. You have to for multiple.
And you keep them fresh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that when a talent like Le'Veon Bell becomes available to you and you're on the short list to get
Which
him,
is almost
I believe,
never. Yeah.
Exactly. I believe, kind of like the Bryce Harper thing, guys like this don't really come around that often, and it's even more rare that he has a chance to come to your city.
Yeah.
Correct.
So because of that, I believe this situation would allow them and make them stray from years and years of doing the similar thing. And also maybe they look at it as, okay, listen, we need to evolve. We need to change things up because the number one thing absolutely needs to be, like I said before, helping the quarterback. And Chucks, Chrome, we've said it since I've known you. We've been talking about it. The running back is the perfect complementary piece to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So imagine if that complementary piece is a top 3 in the league.
Yeah.
I think that's their mindset.
I don't
opinion.
disagree. And if you're talking about terms of talent with bringing Le'Veon Bell in, I'm all for it. You know that. Like I've never questioned talent. Like I've never said, "Oh no, he's not good enough. It's not worth it." No. If you can get Le'Veon Bell as a talent here on the Eagles, that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just the other things. But I mean, I hope it is what you say and that they're like, "Okay, maybe in this special circumstance, we kind of have to go for broke." The other thing I'm going to throw out there, and just something to think about, this whole thing about Todd Gurley and his the arthritis in his knee, and there's even rumors saying that he wants to get stem cell operation on his knee. Todd Gurley, his contract extension was a big reason, was a catapult for Le'Veon Bell being able to do what he was able to do. Yep. Does that hinder from any GM standpoint? Now I'm not talking just about Howie and the Eagles. I'm talking about everyone. I'm talking about the Jets, Colts, everyone rumored to get him, go after Bell. Does that now put like a little bit of hesitation on their part to be like, okay, Todd Gurley just got that extension, but now he might not be gone. Does that put more validation of we can't invest this much in a running back?
No, you go get the talent if it's there.
Every running back's different. That is the Todd Gurley situation is one of the weirder situations I've ever seen because, I mean, you go back to the Super Bowl, he wasn't used. He's the reason why they got to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. So if that happened to multiple guys, if that was like a trend that's happening to running backs, kind of like concussions and stuff like that, if the knee was coming up and there was statistics and analytics that would provide that,
good point.
I would agree with you. But this is such a weird situation.
And even just in a general standpoint of the league, one guy can't dictate that. So if one guy dictates now all the owners are going to collude on let's drive the price down because we're worried about this, that's going to open up a whole other box of worms. There has to be a trend to support an idea. This is why this position is paid this amount or this and that, and this is why the value is coming down. You need a trend to be able to back that up. You can't use one specific instance in order to make that argument.
Chucks, I'll give you an example as well. I'll apply it to quarterbacks. So and I understand what you were saying, but could I argue, or let me just throw out the scenario that, okay, if they're going to do that with running backs, they look at Todd Gurley and GMs would become afraid. Would that then happen with people looking at quarterbacks and they look what happened to Kirk Cousins? Like, oh, if you pay him a lot of money, he's instantly going to stink. Or they look at the 6, top tier teams that pay their quarterbacks, they all miss the playoffs. Could that stray from?
Well, that's a very good point. I think it's the reason. Now, I don't agree with what I was trying to say. I was just putting it out there.
No, I understand.
The only reason why I put it out there and it got me thinking is because it's been such a whole thing before the Gurley contract of you don't pay running backs. You don't pay running backs. That was the whole thing. Like running backs were fighting to get paid. Yep. Like LaShawn McCoy wasn't getting paid a lot. The other running backs weren't getting paid a lot until Todd Gurley, and then that's what that's what kind of got all the other good running backs in the league to kind of ask for more money, and that was a big thing. I remember the show I was on there. I was like, yes, running backs are going to get paid. So, like, that's why I bring it up, is because he was a catalyst for that. Now is that going to divert? Our team's going to stray away. I don't think it should, because I think it's now. I think the resurgence of the running back position has been underway. I think teams now see that you still need talent at the running back position, whether it's a lead back or a committee. You need guys there in your backfield to help carry the team as the complementary to the quarterback. Because, I mean, Bill Belichick drafted Sony Michel in the first round. And their team, the Patriots, won a Super Bowl this year because they were a running team. So that the running back position is getting important. So I don't think it will go that way. So I'm hoping you are right, and I'm leaning toward your way. It's just you don't those idiots out there are going to be like, this is why running backs aren't important. This is why you don't pay them. And it's exactly what you guys said. It's a one-time thing. It's a freak thing with Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
But if they are that talented, you still pay them. You pay the talent.
Now, I'll ask you guys this, okay?
I mean, you could make the argument, too, David Johnson could fall into that as well.
Yeah. But see, the David Johnson thing is so weird right now because he came back. I mean, he got hurt, obviously. And then he came back, and everyone
forgot about him because he was on a bad team.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. He was kind of buried there. Well, he didn't have a bad season, but everyone was like, oh, he sucked. Well, look at the team.
Look at the team.
Look at the O-line. Oh, wait. A running back needs an offensive line. Who has the worst offensive line?
The coach didn't know how to freaking use him.
Yeah, they had him as a freaking slot receiver. I'm not joking. I was going to ask you guys as well. So if I gave you this list of running backs, or just the top three, or the running back core for the Eagles in 2019/2020, do you think, A, it would work? B, do you think it's possible given money and fit? Le'Veon Bell, Corey Clement, Duke Johnson.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that's great.
That's what I have.
I
think that's what it's going to be.
I would absolutely love it.
I think that would be a dominant running back core right there.
Because you have Le'Veon is obviously your big money number one.
He's your lead guy. He's your new Jay Ajayi to take the 15 touches.
You have Duke Johnson, who you can get via trade, who, by the way, you know where you get those trade pieces? In the moves that you get in the Michael Bennett move.
Yes.
And the Aguilar move. So you're not losing anything. If anything, you're staying the same with draft. So you're not losing anything there.
Duke Johnson, man. Just go ahead. Sorry.
And then Corey Clement, who he's like your hybrid. You can have as a third down. You can have as a kick returner, punt returner. Or you can have as a wide receiver.
He's your third guy,
Yep. So I really think there's a good shot of that. And then you can have, I don't care about Josh Adams. You can have as your project. But really, if you have Le'Veon, you don't
someone, we were talking about Duke Johnson. And Duke Johnson was going to be one of my no huddle anyway, but someone was like,
well, transition into
Smallwood,
it. No huddle time.
Smallwood is definitely better than Duke Johnson. I'm like, dear Lord, you guys.
Where do they come up with these comparisons?
Where do you come up with these?
It's like, how do we even come up with that sentence?
God. But anyways, yes, Duke Johnson. Good segue, because that rumor that they were asking about.
19 no huddles over here.
I see 4 things.
Times 30.
Duke Johnson.
25%.
The report that in Indy they were asking for trading. Now I don't know if they're going to end up trading for. I mean, some people are still hesitant and still don't think they're going to trade for Duke Johnson. They don't think it'll happen. But I think people now, thankfully, a lot of people on social media surprisingly are for it, and I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that they see Duke Johnson as a talent that wasn't used right in Cleveland, that is dynamic and could fill the role of Darren Sproles. If Darren Sproles goes, you bring Duke Johnson in. He's your do-it-all guy. He will run out of the backfield like Sproles did, but he'll also line up wide. He'll line up in the slot. You look at his receiving numbers, Duke Johnson's one of the best receiving backs in the whole freaking league. So he would absolutely fill that role tremendously. I still need to address and laugh at, like I just said, all these people that are saying no to Duke Johnson, saying he sucks.
Over on the YouTube, the fam likes Duke Johnson.
Awesome.
They think he would.
They're
be a good
smart.
rush. And they also, real quick, Cassius Cliff also adds in, Smallwood is hot trash, but he's better than Pumphrey, which isn't saying shit, but had to be said.
Yes.
You got to watch out there, Cassius. Chucks is a big Pumphrey guy.
Oh, God. Anyway, I'm never gonna live that down. Anyways,
Never.
ever. It's okay. We're both Filipinos, so it's fine. What was I saying? Oh yeah. It annoys me that people will look at numbers and automatically think he stinks, and automatically say that Duke Johnson he's not anyway. Like, stop. Like, look at what. Actually, watch games, because I had one guy even admit,
and watch games.
Watch the games. Like, he was one guy even admitted jokingly, he wasn't serious. He's joking. He was like, I don't like Duke Johnson because I had on my fantasy team and he was a disappointment. And it was funny. But there are a lot of people like that, where they evaluate players based on fantasy. They evaluate players because of,
and that's why people love
teams.
Matthew Stafford. He stinks.
So
Matthew Stafford stinks.
I want to say this, anyone that really does not think that Duke Johnson would be an upgrade from our running backs now, and that includes Corey Clement, that includes Wendell Smallwood, that includes Josh Adams. If you don't think Duke Johnson is better than any of those three, you need to stop watching football or just learn how to watch football and evaluate the position. Because there is no way in God's green earth that any of those three running backs are better than Duke Johnson. I'm telling you right now. I think that's a travesty to even say that. The guys we have. Wendell Smallwood, Corey Clement, and Josh Adams. There's no way they are better than Duke Johnson. If you're literally saying Duke Johnson sucks or that they are better, then I know for a fact you did not watch Duke Johnson. I know it. I know for a fact. There's no way. I hate highlight videos on YouTube of a player because it's not the proper way to assess. But just for shits and giggles, I went on YouTube and like, let's compare highlight reels of Duke Johnson and Corey Clement. There was barely any of Corey Clement, and there was a bunch of Duke Johnson making crazy plays, one-handed grabs, like breaking tackles, scoring touchdowns. It's
Corey's
nuts.
So you're saying the only footage of Corey is from the Super Bowl?
For the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Chuck's is like an angry little elf tonight.
It's annoying. It's running back. It's annoying.
It's that time of year.
It's like Duke Johnson would be great here, and I'm glad a lot of people agree. I'm glad majority agree. But the very few still annoy me. They still really tick me off. They really do.
Chuck's is going to love tomorrow night. That's all I'm saying.
You done?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done ranting. Yeah. I got it out of my system.
Need a hug or a back pat?
No, I'm good.
Don't try a kiss. You'll get punched in the mouth.
Punch in the mouth.
Square in the teeth.
Square in your teeth.
Good for wedding pictures.
Where do I go? Such a busy week. What do I do? Ryan? Do we want to talk with Bryce Harper? Do we want to do that now?
I was going to say before that, I was going to throw you guys a theory while we're still on football.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it goes back to a team we were talking about earlier a little bit. Okay? This is way out of left field, but I think it could happen.
Okay.
The starting quarterback for your Washington Redskins will be no. Who do you think I'm going to say? I want to see if you're on the same wavelength.
For Washington, Blake Bortles.
Ryan Tannehill.
Jacoby Brissett.
Oh man.
Oh god.
So
we definitely weren't on that level.
There was a report out. I actually don't mind Jacoby Brissett. I think he can actually be decent. There's a report out there, and I've been saying ever since Andrew Luck came back, you got to trade Jacoby Brissett because he was obviously, if anyone somehow doesn't know who he was the starter when Andrew Luck was out.
Yeah.
And it made sense to keep him last year as an insurance policy just in case. But clearly, Andrew Luck is back.
Especially because Andrew Luck couldn't throw more than 40 yards, as we saw in that Colts-Eagles game week 3.
Yep.
So there's reports out there that they are willing to shop Jacoby Brissett, which I think is wise because I think you can get some value for him this offseason because of how bad the quarterback market is, not only free agency but also draft. I think a guy like that would fit perfectly with Washington's current situation. A team that is not really close to winning. They have a lot of needed pieces. They're looking at Colt McCoy or Mark Sanchez or Josh Johnson as their starter because Alex Smith is going to be out for the remaining of the season. I think Jacoby Brissett could come in here, kind of fight for a job this year, and if it doesn't pan out, you draft somebody in a much better quarterback class next year.
Okay, yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. What's the worst thing that can happen? He pans out? You understand? I think Jacoby Brissett, if number one, because I think their main plan is to try and get a guy like Josh Rosen. I'm very confident that either Josh Rosen or Jacoby Brissett will be a Washington Redskin.
Okay.
I would be shocked if it's not one of those two. That's why I went to Foles earlier. Because if it's not those two, I think Foles, if he's still out there, they would have to go to him because they're not in position to really trade up. And they're not good enough. You know what I mean? Unless they really like a Will Grier or something,
Right.
or Drew Lock. So I believe they're going to go after either Rosen or Jacoby Brissett via trade, and I believe they're also going to go after Antonio Brown.
The Redskins.
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that is a Dan Snyder move.
I still think Antonio Brown's going to end up in San Francisco.
Apparently they have no interest in him.
Yeah,
though.
apparently they have no interest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I heard.
didn't hear that.
Was it Oakland?
The
I saw
Jets.
Oakland, the Jets.
Oakland Jets. I forget the third team.
The Redskins were a couple weeks ago. Oh, Tampa apparently, but I don't buy into the
Okay.
Tampa Bay thing.
They have a lot of wide receivers. Why would they
I
go
know.
over there?
I buy the
Good
Tampa Bay
Lord,
for
though.
Le'Veon.
Could you see him
Yeah,
with that team, though? What a
Oh,
wide receiving core they would have.
Yeah, no defense would be able to stop
They don't
that
have
too.
a quarterback, but
See, Cassius agrees with me. He says Rosen to the Skins. It just makes too
I
much.
could see Rosen going to the Skins.
Or the Giants. And you guys
The
talked
I
about
would-
that earlier.
The
yeah.
I
Giants
would
is
hate-
another landing
I
spot.
would hate Rosen on the
Wouldn't
Giants.
shock me if he ends up in this division one way or the other.
Yeah.
Which I'm
for sure.
fine with.
Rather-
I
I'd
like
rather
Rosen,
have-
but not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want the Giants to get a good quarterback. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Would you rather have, as an Eagles fan, and chime in on this as well if you want, as an Eagles fan, would you rather have the Giants acquire Rosen this season, either A, eventually use him when Eli stinks up the place, or B, have him kind of be molded and sit back and wait?
I think he'll sit the whole year and then come next year.
Would you rather have that happen, or would you rather have the Giants draft one of the bigger name kids out of the draft next year?
Well, here's the thing.
No, I would rather have them take Rosen, I think.
Because we kind of know what Rosen is.
Oh, that's so difficult. That's difficult to answer because I don't know where they're going to even be at.
Exactly. Well,
I don't know.
Exactly. Well, we would have to assume what as far as where they'll be as far as draft order.
Yeah, like
Well,
I don't know.
they're not going to be a good team this year.
No, I know that, but I don't know if they'll even be high enough to get one of the elite prospects. You know what I mean?
Well, they can always trade up,
They could. I mean, yeah,
and
There's
then
so
that brings
many
in the
factors.
uncertainty
But
that they could draft
yeah.
and then
That's
get a
a
bust.
fair question, though. Do you
Yeah.
take the risk of maybe they do have a high draft pick next year and they do that, or would you rather see them just get Rosen now
And
call
try
it
and
a day?
mold
I
him.
don't know.
I'd rather see them get Rosen and call it a day.
Because you know that he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to jump off the page, and I don't think he's a bust, but I think he's kind of marginal.
Yeah.
And also, he has injury trouble.
Probably Rosen. Yeah, probably Rosen.
I'd rather see them
yeah.
get Ryan Tannehill.
I don't know where Ryan Tannehill's going to end up. It's
I don't
weird.
either. I don't know
yeah.
that he's going to be starting.
He's one of those guys where it's just like
He's a guy I think should start,
middle
but he
of the
can never
road.
stay healthy. I
Yeah.
don't know that he's going to get a starting job this year.
Well, I just don't know where he would end up. Like, I don't know. There's so many. There's so
Oakland?
little.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's a spot.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Oakland.
Cincinnati. I like the Cincinnati thing. Oakland, I don't think makes sense because, number one, if you're going to move on from Derek Carr, you don't do it for Tannehill.
Yeah, that's a downgrade.
But if you're going to move on for Derek Carr, you do it for Kyler Murray.
But we're talking about John Gruden, who God knows what
Touche.
the hell is in John Gruden's mind.
Touche.
Yeah, but
And John Gruden was a fan of Tannehill coming out of college.
Okay.
Big fan. He
Yeah.
might feel like he could get the best out of him if he could stay on the fucking field.
see, I just wouldn't move on for Derek.
I'm
Derek
going
Carr.
to tell you, I say it all the time, and I truly believe it. If Ryan Tannehill ever could have stayed healthy consistently in his career, I think Ryan Tannehill would have been top 15 quarterback in this league.
Oh, he's
15,
talented.
yes.
You
With
see what happened to the
out
Dolphins when he played.
question.
No,
Yeah.
he's athletic.
He's
yeah.
Sam Bradford light. He's been on the field more than Bradford for the most part,
still
but
just
he's
gets
not.
healthy.
But he's that guy though. Will never reach the potential because of
Yeah.
the injury history,
Yeah.
true.
and it's a shame because I really felt like Miami finally had their quarterback since Marino, and the motherfucker couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Are we good? We moving on? From
I have
that?
one more. I just want to say one more. No huddle.
Sure,
God,
Chucks. I
it's
didn't even
so
fucking get
fr-
one in, but you get your next one.
Your no huddle is
Why
going
don't you
to
do
be
your next 7?
Your no huddle is going to be
Who
something
said I
huge.
only had one?
Okay, go.
Maybe I got 7 like you do.
You asked me if I was done.
I asked if we were done with that one.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Just saying.
You go. You were the first one.
Well, today is a sad day for people from this area, not just wrestling fans, but if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, you know that South Jersey native King Kong Bundy passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And what's significant, yes, he was in WrestleMania 2 against Hulk Hogan. He was one of the great heels of his generation. He's a wrestling legend. He's from South Jersey, went to Washington Township High School.
That's great. That's
and
right here.
is very visible, has been very visible in the Philadelphia sports scene. He's had his appearances over the years as a special guest on a lot of the dial radio, sports talk radio. He's a frequenter of Philadelphia sports events. I know my parents in the late 90s shared a box with him at an Eagles game. My mother talked to him. They said he was like a really nice guy.
That's awesome.
He was at Phillies games a lot. He did a lot of appearances at Phillies games and stuff. He was actually just there last year for their wrestling event, and he signed autographs and took pictures with people. But he's a native of the area, very entrenched in the Philadelphia culture and sports scene, outside of the professional wrestling stuff. So sad day, and it was pretty cool to see people who aren't even like big wrestling fans but know who he is, know because he was from the area and because he had been so involved in Philly sports and a big fan. So sad day for him. He passed away, age of 61, King Kong Bundy. Rest in peace to him. I mean, we'll talk about that more on Lazy Booking on Thursday. Just want to give a quick shout out to that.
Rest in peace. That's sad. How old was he, you said?
61.
Oh, jeez.
So they didn't really release how he's passed away, at least as of when I last saw. But sad stuff, man.
Yeah.
Another crazy week with people passing away already.
It's crazy. Like it seems like when these things happen, it seems like it happens in bunches.
It's been a lot. You had Luke Perry passed away.
Yeah.
You had Angela from Who's the Boss passed away. King Kong Bundy. There was a couple other ones that people
wrestlers a couple weeks ago too.
Yeah, it's been pretty insane. So anyway,
so this year already, not to discredit anybody else that we've lost, but the two big names that we've lost already this year was Mean Gene, because that was this year, right? That wasn't
Gene, King Kong Bundy, and wasn't Jim Neidhart wasn't this year. That was
that was
the end of 2018.
I think that was back in November. I believe.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the two big ones. Yeah. Oh, and Pedro Morales.
Yeah.
He just passed away.
The one thing I'll say, and like Chrome said, we'll save a bulk of it for Thursday on Lazy Booking. I always refer to those like the WrestleMania anthology DVD sets that I always talk about. So I remember going back and watching the first one, which was in that bunch, which was 95. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing Bundy, he was facing The Undertaker.
Yep.
And whenever I look back and I think about just like old school wrestlers, I think of him because his look. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had such a distinct look anyway, even in that time. Mm-hmm. But when you think of the look of old school wrestlers compared to how now it's completely different, just the style and their look, Bundy was always that guy to me.
Well, yeah, and I agree. And it's, again, when you talk about, especially the early years of like WrestleMania and stuff, and you talk about the rise of like Hulkamania and stuff that had happened, mm-hmm. He, at his time, his run was short.
Yeah.
But the first run that he really had, he was with Bobby Heenan. He was such a perfect foil. He was the guy that when they were characters, mm-hmm. there was the Immortal Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and the $1 Million Man and the Honky Tonk Man, where they were actual characters. You heard the name King Kong Bundy, and he's what you would envision, and he acted the character. And again, what's so cool about it is like, he was so good at his character, one of the most kind of perfect foils to Hulkamania during that rise, and being a bad guy, a heel. But the actual man in person, outside of it, was as nice as you'll ever see. I went on, 6ABC posted it today, all the local news outlets, and I went through and I started reading the feedback on there. And people sharing pictures at Eagles games, at Phillies games, at wrestling signings, or just running into him in the streets. And people sharing their stories about how kind he was to their family, or he took the time to have a 10-minute conversation with them. I had an experience like that. where I went to an autograph signing and he wouldn't take my money. He just took the picture with me and talked to me for like 10 minutes. The absolute nicest guy. And again, I always love when these guys, whether they're, B, C, D celebrities or they're an A celebrity, but I love when these guys never forget where they came from, and he was always that kind of guy. So sad day, and again, it was pretty cool to see a lot of people giving the feedback on him. So go ahead, Chucks.
Nice.
You want to get your 7 more in before we go?
Okay, here's 7. Jason Witten is back with the Cowboys. There's my 7.
Not a surprise.
What a mistake.
I mean, considering
it's
where they were at with tight ends, he's an upgrade.
Oh, no, I'm talking about for Jason Witten. What a mistake. Just retire. Just go away.
Big win for us, though, because we don't have to listen to his commentary anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big win for the entire NFL fan base.
I went back because everyone was like, oh, Jason Witten, he's a Hall of Famer. Oh, really? I look back at the last 4 times we played him and his stats combined. You know what he got combined? 51 yards and the touchdown in 4 combined games.
Jason Witten, I was shocked at how bad he was at commentary. I honestly thought he would be a guy that would come in, and I felt like he would be really good at it.
But he was really bad.
He was terrible.
They have an issue on their hands over at ESPN with that. I mean, what are they gonna do?
What are they gonna do?
Just get Booker.
Now they got.
We're fine. If I see that golf cart in the field next year, I'm riding. It's gonna be a one-man riot.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, can you in a draft class that's very, very deep on tight ends? Can you imagine if because they have Jason Witten now, they totally skip out on the tight end? That's like their biggest need. And imagine if they leave day 1 and day 2 of the draft.
Their biggest need is quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to get that.
You get a nice one. I find that really funny. I wonder if they're still going to stick with Booger.
I don't know. I don't care.
I hope they don't.
Just go
I hope
away
they don't.
forever.
I hope he's gone. I can't stand. Yeah. I don't mind Tessitore.
He's a college
I don't
guy.
mind. I don't mind Tessitore. I don't love Tessitore, but I can't stand Boog.
I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna transition because we're running low on time.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm not gonna go into the Bryce Harper conversation we've heard 100 times on these shows. I will say I think it was a great deal for both sides. It makes a lot of sense. And anybody who's worried about, by year 11, 12, and 13, nobody expects anyone to play to that level when you sign these deals. You focus on the early to top 2/3 of that contract is where the success is most judged. But what he did was he gave them a very favorable AAV so that they can continue to have financial flexibility now and in that time period. And it also gives them a guy who wants to be in one city and wants to be the face of an organization, a top 15 at worst, probably a top 10 player in the league. I think he's going to hit his stride here. He hits so well in this ballpark. What I want to talk about is how impressive it is that he has set the all-time record in jersey sales when it's first released. I don't know. I don't even remember what the crazy numbers were, but, I mean, he blew guys like LeBron out of the water.
Wow.
The top-selling professional sports jersey of, I think, what was it, like, of a player first couple days or first
top-selling player 48 hours after New Jersey release.
Yeah. That's insane.
That's crazy.
The top 5 is Bryce Harper, LeBron, Giancarlo Stanton, Khalil Mack, and the favorite of the Birds of the Feather show, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
Hey, Jimmy G. Wait, does it say which team for LeBron?
Lakers.
Lakers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can guess it.
Well,
Stanton, Yankees, Bears, Mac.
put it this way. It's so crazy that the organization ran out of R's to use for the jerseys. Did you see that sign today?
What?
Posted in the store? They ran out of R's?
Yeah.
Like the
That's
letter R's to
crazy.
put on the jerseys.
Oh,
Well, there's
man.
2 R's in every Harper
Yeah,
jersey.
yeah.
But it's absolutely insane. Anyway, it just goes to show you that when you go out, we talked about special talents and how that can change the organization. Ryan, I think you saw the post. The post that I put out there, An average ticket for a Phillies game is $45 on an average. For the whole ballpark in general. Within 2 hours of this, just the word that a day before he took a physical, 2 days before the deal was officially signed, within 2 hours, they essentially sold, the first day, they sold 100,000 tickets. Guess what they did the next day? Sold another 80,000 tickets. So his first year of that contract is $10 million. That's the base salary. Now, it's positioned differently to spread out through the year. It's front-loaded in the back end. I think it drops to, 22, 23 million, something like that. But you look at that first day alone, that's $4.5 million, give or take a couple bucks, in revenue that you've bought in. $4.5 million. You've already paid for the first half of his first year's contract in fucking hours. I didn't even do the math for 180,000 tickets sold. That's not including the increased beverage and food sales that you're going to have at the stadium. Clearly the merchandise sales, the advertising and sponsorship, the endorsement sales, and all that stuff that's going to continue to bring revenue in. People who sit there and say, and this is why I always say with baseball, when people say, he's not – why would you spend this money on this? It's not worth this, or you're overpaying, or they can't afford to pay this, or they can't afford that. Baseball is the one sport where you could pay 5 Bryce Harpers and have plenty of money to profit in the end of it. So I never want to hear anybody again sit there and say a team can't afford to do this or a team can't afford to do that. When the Pittsburgh Pirates were lost 17 consecutive losing seasons, Mario Lemieux tried to buy the Pirates from their ownership. And they had shitty ticket sales and everything else. You know what? Baseball, they make so much money that the organization, the ownership, refused to sell to them at that time because they didn't want to give up the profits. So imagine when you're filling when you're filling a stadium, when you got a Bryce Harper who's selling shirts out the wazoo, and jerseys and shirzies and everything else, and $70 Game of Thrones bobbleheads and everything else. Dude, the revenue streams are insane, not including the TV deal, Ryan. Not even including the monster TV deal that they have. So get it out of your head that in Major League Baseball, teams can't afford to pay this person or that person or that person. The smallest market can pay 3 Bryce Harpers without question and still field a decent team. So that's all I got to say. Great deal for the Phillies. Pretty cool to see him set that jersey sale. That'll finally be broken when Mike Trout signs with the Phillies in 2 years. I'm saying it's going to happen. I believe Jim Bowden when he says it. But that's what I got. Pretty good coup for the Phillies to get him and get it done.
I can't wait for Trout.
Yeah. I might get Chucks to actually learn what a baseball is. We'll figure it out. We'll work on it. Yes. Guys, great show. Appreciate it
awesome
as always.
Stuff.
Good conversation. YouTube, you guys rocked it the second half. Everybody, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, wherever you guys joined us, man, we appreciate it. We're obviously brought to you by our sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accounts, make them yours, GibsonMayer.com. Specialized physical therapy found in Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton, New Jersey, on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. StreamSmart.com, StreamSmart. Scanzano Sports, ScanzanoSports.com. Anybody else, I don't even know who we got. We love our sponsors at this studio, man. They're awesome to us. But listen, good show, Ryan. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for producing a great show. Viewer discretion advised. You took care of it to make sure that the fam knew if they got their kids, time to put them to bed.
Just got to give them a warning, you know what I mean?
Fam, you guys drive it. Tomorrow you got the fix. You got AM and the PM tomorrow. Thursday, Lazy Booking Happy Hour. Friday, we got the Philly Sports Guys. Saturday, the Hooligans. Sunday, Agree to Disagree. Monday, In This Very Ring drops early. Then you've got the Sports Hounds on Monday night, and we're back with you next Tuesday.
Free agency.
Check out the content. Follow A2D on YouTube, on Facebook, all over the place, Twitter, everything else. Until then, guys, have a great week. We'll talk to you later.